out his IRS form to see that he was being paid there and he was being paid here. So I hope that what you've just said is true, because it is very, very important. And the reason why I ask you that is because there was a former US president who had a habit of sending his deputy away so that he could be able to do his work. But now that you've made it clear, I sincerely do hope that it will not come again for us to pull his, it is called I-90 form, and see that he's been paid in the US and also being paid here. I thank you.
Yeah, as an oversight committee, I think those are issues that are fairly within our domain, and if it becomes a matter of concern, then there's nothing that stops us as a committee to pursue that. And you know, even the context where you have at the UN environmental program, UNEP, you've got a situation where expatriates who are supposed to be working from Nairobi, they choose to work from France and other countries, and they continue to be paid as if they're working from Kenya. But I think since it's not an issue that has come before us substantively, when it does, we shall do what Senator Ledamo Lekina suggested. Senator Wamatangi.
Thank you, Chair. I also wanted to take the opportunity to first welcome the Governor of West Pokot to this session, Chair. And as he said earlier, acknowledge that he's been with the Senate before, and as one of the senators actually who was rated. I remember, Governor, and I'm sure it's not lost upon you, when there was a survey that was conducted. And during the results of that survey, the governor, current governor for West Pokot, who was then the senator for West Pokot, was rated as the best and highest performing senator then. I think with quite a high percentage. Now, the reason I say that, Governor, is just to say and show you the kind of expectations that, for example, even the House of Senate has upon you as a former senator who has been elected as a governor. And I remember the pronouncements that we made in your presence, several of them, as to what the expectations of the Senate are from governors. And now you have been here, you are a senator yourself, you have been now elected as a governor, so you have the opportunity to show that we were not just talk, that we also action. And I've said this to many other former colleagues who have gotten the position of governors, that it will be a very big letdown, a big shame to the House of Senate after saying that you have gone through what you would call your pupillage through the Senate and ascending to the position of a governor, and yet then you do not perform and meet the expectations and standards of what good leadership should be as a governor. I mean, we would feel ashamed, Chair, if all the time here we keep on, meeting out and talking and actually sometimes even castigating governors, that this is what you should do, this is what is expected of you, and yet when we ourselves get the opportunity, we don't get to do what we say. So, Governor, know that all eyes are on you. Just in case you do not perform, and then your reports come here when they are bad reports, and especially we are keen to see how fast can we be able to start looking at the reports of your current performance. That is for the year 2017, 2018. And then we'll be saying now we are measuring you truly to the actions and the callings of what has been happening in your county of West Pokot. As Chair, let me finalize by saying I happen to have been one of those that were privileged to have gone to West Pokot during the performance of this governor. And we visited a few places together and to see the kind of work you're doing. And I was happy to see then that you are really engaging with the people of West Pokot from proper and grassroots level. Please, for the sake of what we stand for as the Senate, I would want to urge you that you have to measure up to the standard that a governor who has had the experience of being a senator is supposed to measure up to. And as we finalize these particular audit queries that we're looking at, although it was during the tenure of your predecessor, then you should also show good leadership by rising up to the occasion and dealing with the issues themselves that were there and resolving whatever might have been left either unattended or dissatisfactory. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Senator Matangi, for reiterating our expectation. Any other member? We can proceed. Very well. Governor, you have also shared our concern on how to be current. As we have this conversation today, we will also be requesting you to give us a current picture. For example, on things like pending bills, on things like wage bill, on things like compliance with laws. We are not just asking how things were in 2014, we'll also be asking whether things have improved now. And I think we'll need to have a very candid and straightforward conversation on how to rectify what went wrong and how to move forward and get better value for the people of West Pokot. I want us to now move to the substantive agenda, which is to consider the Auditor General's report. So Auditor General, as always, you will give us your opinion, and then you will take us through the basis of that opinion, and then the Governor will respond to all the issues that have been raised by the Auditor General. So may we proceed, Auditor?
Thank you very much, Chairman. This is the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of County Government of West Pokot for the year ended 30th June 2015. Chairman, the opinion is a disclaimer, and I read. Because of the significance of the matters described in the basis for disclaimer of opinion paragraph, I have not been able to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence to provide a basis for an audit opinion. Accordingly, I do not express an opinion on the financial statements. Chairman, I go to the basis of disclaimer.
First of all, let's understand the significance of that opinion. It is a disclaimer of opinion.
Yes, Chair.
So what does it mean to the person in West Pokot if it was grading academics?
If it was grading, Chair, on the scale of A to D, this is a D student, Chair.
Professor Lonyangapuo, Professor of Mathematics, you run a county that scores D in a national examination. I think we need to conceptualize it, because when you talk of disclaimer of opinion, sometimes people don't understand what we are talking about. But this means that it is the worst it can get.
It is the worst, Chair.
It cannot get worse than this.
It cannot get worse than that.
Okay. They banned corporal punishment, so you are safe.
Chair.
Senator Kibiru.
Thank you, Chair. Just as we progress, Governor, do you still have the person who was the accountant or the chief officer during this period, 2014, 2015? Is he with us?
Chair, we don't have the chief officer. Of course, as you know, when a new government comes, the senior political appointees, they go. So they are not here.
What was your opinion in 2013-14?
Chair, it was the same. It was a disclaimer.
And 15-16?
The same, Chair. It was still a disclaimer.
And 16-17, have you tabled that? Not yet tabled.
Not yet, Chair.
But it's also a disclaimer. So you see, you are a very poor student. Got grade D in year 1, grade D in year 2, grade D in year 3. And we must now agree on corrective measures. And I think that is the basis of the discussion that we are going to have. Professor, you look embarrassed around that.
No, I'm not embarrassed. I am not embarrassed, Chair. It is on that note that the people of West Pokot decided to recall me from Senate so that I can come and put things in order. There's no way West Pokot can be D student, never. Now, if you come and present year 17, 18, you will notice that student called West Pokot County, minus the teachers and the headmaster who was there, it has improved. We are way above that D, and it is the county to watch.
I see students blaming the headmaster. We will be here. We will be here to assess how the performance has improved. So, okay, now that we have put it in context, Akaka, now take us through the basis of that opinion.
Thank you, Chair. Basis of that opinion is found on page 2 of the Auditor General's report, and I read, unauthorized expenditure included in the acquisition of asset figure of Kenya shillings 1,695,218,867 reflected in the statement of receipts and payment is an expenditure of Kenya shillings 124,336,526, which was incurred on the procurement of goods and works against a budget of Kenya shillings 69 million, resulting to an authorized expenditure of Kenya shillings 55,336,526 as shown below. And Chair, there is a table there. No explanation has been provided for the above anomaly. In the circumstance, the propriety of the expenditure amounting to Kenya shillings 55,336,526 for the year ended 30th June 2015 could not be ascertained. Thank you, Chair.
Governor?
Chair, I will read the management response, and as you can note it, I'm reading from the point of view that the response has come from the officers according to the question, and we are going to take them one by one. 1.1, which is supply and delivery of furniture, County Treasury 8.5,119,000. The county government, through Department of Finance, then procured furniture at a contract sum of 8,519,000. This was necessary for furnishing the newly constructed county treasury offices in readiness for occupation. The budget for this expenditure was provided, and it was approved in the second supplementary budget through the reallocation of automation budget to a newly created budget line known as operationalization of county treasury with an amount of 6 million, which was used to procure the furniture. When the procurement was carried out, the contract sum exceeded the budget provision. Thus, it was agreed that the balance be paid in the subsequent budgetary allocations. A contract sum of 6 million was paid on 30th of June 2015. For the financial year 2015-2016, a budget provision of 10 million was provided for operationalization of the county treasury. It is out of this vote that the outstanding contract sum of the 2,519,000 was paid. And the extracts of the approved budget JER are attached in Appendix 1.1 in this large document. Yes.
Auditor General, have you had time to look at Appendix 1.1? And what do you make of it?
Chair, I did have an opportunity to look at the response against the provision of the Public Finance Management Act, and I felt that the response was not sufficient to address the issue that had been raised by the Auditor General, because we required to have evidence that there was a reallocation of that expenditure as required by the PFM Act, Section 154, 2 subsection B, and we didn't get that evidence. Further to that, the explanation indicates that there was a supplementary budget, but so far we've not been given that evidence that there was a supplementary budget during that financial year. This is a situation whereby they are claiming that the supplementary budget was done the subsequent year, but I don't think the law envisages a situation whereby you incur the expenditure this financial year, then the subsequent year is when you seek approval for that. That is not what is envisaged in the law. Thank you.
Chair.
Senator Faki, then Senator Olekin. Before Senator Faki, just 1 minute, I wish to acknowledge the presence of a member of the Senate and a friend of this committee, and the Senator for West Pokot. He knows how to say his name better than I can do, so please go on record.
Chair, my own. Chairman, I'm Samuel Pogisho, Senator for West Pokot County, a friend of the committee.
You are welcome, Senator. And just as Senator Pogisho sits down, I'd like the Vice Chair of this committee also to go on record.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My name is Mithika Linturi, the Vice Chairman of this committee and Senator Meru County.
Karibu. Senator Faki.
Yes. Governor, the audit query is that you spent more than what you had budgeted for. And in your response, you say that there was a supplementary budget which has not been given. And secondly, there was a reallocation which was made to the financial year 2015-2016, which also has not been given. So where is the evidence that there was a supplementary budget? And secondly, that budget allowed you to incur the extra cost of the furniture. Thank you, Chairman.
We'll just take note, then you'll respond. Senator Lekina.
Thank you, Chair. Professor, I think there's an issue that the auditor has raised, which I wanted clarity, because in your response, you alluded to the fact that there was a supplementary budget done. Can you tell us whether it was done in the same year or whether it was done in the next year, as the auditor suggested?
Governor, could you respond to the Auditor General and the issues raised by the two senators?
Chair, the document submitted here supplementary, it was done in January 2016, the one attached as Appendix 1. If you go to, it's not paginated, but you'll see somewhere in the middle, vote. There's a vote there called operationalization of the Treasury building, networking, and so on and so on. An item costing 10 million. What the county government did then, they spent it direct in the vote of automation to pay for the furniture. And there is also something called revenue automation. There is a money. I mean, of course, there's a 6 million is shown there. So, what my people then did, and you can find your, you can put yourself in my shoes that some people were doing things here without doing due regard to law. They just spend it, and that is why they quickly just showed that we removed from this vote to this. If you can recall that time we had a problem also when I was seated there. There was a terminology that was very famous from West POKOT. It was called borrowing. You borrow from this vote to this vote, and that's why I think we got D, as the auditor did mention. So somehow, that supplementary budget as mentioned here does not have a specific line showing payment for furniture. It just says automation.
Can we agree on a few things, members? One, if we are going to accept a supplementary budget, it has to be for 2014-2015, for the period under review, not 2015-2016. Number two, to refer the governor to the general procurement and asset disposal principles in the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act, and that is section 53, that makes it mandatory for all entities to do procurement planning. In fact, 53 subsection 9 says that an accounting officer who knowingly commences any procurement process without ascertaining whether the good, work, or service is budgeted for commits an offense under this act. And it goes ahead to say in subsection 11 that any state or public officer who fails to prepare procurement and disposal plans shall be subject to internal disciplinary action. I raise that because if you look at the table that was done by the Auditor General, for furniture you had a budget of 0. You spent 8 million. For construction of ATC, you had a budget of 10 million. You spent 22 million. For construction of an education office block, budget of 0. You spent 5 million. ICU, budget of 12 million. You spent 30 million. I mean, this is fiscal indiscipline. You cannot run a county like that. You cannot even run your own personal affairs in this particular manner. If you go to PFM Act, section 154, that provides the procedures for reallocation of budgets. The Act allows, yes, the Treasury can reallocate budgets, but there's a limit. First of all, there has to be an approval. We have not seen any approval here. And that approval is by the CEC in charge of finance. What we have seen is some long report for 2015-2016. And secondly, there is a limit. You cannot reallocate more than 10% from a vote. So, Governor, if you reallocated 8.5 million from the automation vote, how much had been budgeted for automation? Was it 85 million?
Chair, like I did say, the questions you are raising are very valid. Very fortunately, even though the officers who prepared this are no longer working with me, but they are in Kenya. So I would say that the committee, because of that act and the law, some officers just brought problems into the government then, and their names are here. You can already see they are the ones who signed this budget. And really, there is no way you can bring a supplementary budget a year or two later purporting to sort out a mess of another year. That is not allowed. In my case, in our case, we have tried to restore and sort out some of the. In our time, we don't have those things, but we are trying our best to see how we can answer this, and if the officers that caused the problem, that brought all this problem, the law suggests and recommends certain measures, disciplinary measures to be taken on them.
Yeah.
Senate.
Chair, what is coming out is that however much you would want to over-deliberate on this issue, things did not work. And I think in the interest of time, you could guide us in making a determination so that we can move. Because whatever we do, whatever arguments we are going to bring in the next 20, 30 minutes, it will not change. What has happened has happened. So you could guide us in making a determination so that we move to the next item.
Senator Olekina.
Chair, I agree with Senator Kibiru, but I also have a question because earlier on the auditor stated that your county has received a disclaimer for the last how many times? 3 times. And my question is, having been a member of this committee, what actions have you taken to go through the report, the management response, so that it makes it easier for us? Because you agree that everyone carries responsibility to a point where they take personal responsibility to the mismanagement of facts. So I'd like you to tell us whether there's any action you've taken, or, and you can also guide us, because this cannot go just the way it is.
Vice Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Other than to add that Professor Lonyangapuo, I know he's a former member of this committee when he sat in the Senate. And because he's very versed with the procedure of investigation on these matters, I would kindly ask him to, where things are so clear, straightforward, and where there is no evidence that can rebut the position before the committee, even if we can't anybody, or even if we give you more extra time, the position will not change, because there are issues that cannot be rebutted by whatever evidence that will come, just like the case that he has. So I would approach the situation, because where you sit and government lives in a succession. Whatever you received, whatever information you have, use it to guide us and tell us exactly where you feel things were not right, they were not done. You are not the one who was sitting there. And you have no duty or obligation to defend the indefensible. So kindly please take us through. We would really appreciate it.
Senator Amatangi.
Chair, I was just wondering, as the governor was making his presentation on one, in view of the fact that, for example, the law empowers the Senate, and specifically this committee too, to apply the law to have either punitive or corrective measures that would be directed at the officers who were in office then, using the powers bestowed upon this committee by Article 125, Chair. And what one would want to hear from the governor, I don't know whether he has explored, as a sitting governor, is there legislation, is there powers bestowed upon the office of the governor that would also at the county level initiate the process of you having officers who are in office before answerable to certain deeds before? And even as this matter comes to the Senate and it's deliberated, and we would be asking ourselves, how can we then have those officers held to account for their actions? But as the governor and the occupant of the office there, are there measures not only to look at the reports of the auditor, but also yourself corrective? Because as you have new officers sitting, it's a question of continuity. You have inherited liabilities and assets, but how are you mitigating the liabilities, knowing, as you have said, that those officers are within the county?
Governor?
Chair, I take note of the concerns from the members, and it is true you note that we are in a peculiar situation, in the sense that most of the things, as you can see, even proceeding forward later, programs were being done without budget. And you find it is going on. And there is a terminology that's running around saying we will be doing for many years, little by little. What we did when we came in, because those are the concerns I had when I was also one of you, and you had me very focal then, was I quickly decided to call National Construction Authority to come and do an audit on the quality and the quality assurance of construction projects in the entire county. So that as I took over, I knew what was going on. So we decided to engage that law. The document was produced by the national agency, and I have given you a copy of the same. They are very tough recommendations ahead. You will find some of these buildings were done the way you are saying, which is a law has been broken. But further, you may find that some projects have been overpaid, and the buildings are not finished. So too many things were there. Lastly, this year also, I also, as a measure to safeguard and give guarantee and assurance to the people of West Pokot and Kenya that we are in office and we can be trusted. We don't want to just move business as usual. We did evaluation. We had evaluation report of all ongoing construction projects from 2013 to 2017 now. That one was, the other one was for the ongoing ones, but there were even some that had been done before and they handed over. So we wanted to look at everything because remember there were a time when buildings were collapsing in Nairobi and it became a concern. So I have also favored you, I've given you copies of the same to show chairman and the members that the concerns you have raised are very true. We have since now taken over and the recommendations are coming out. They are coming out and our county assembly are looking at it. And those ones that have been given a clean bill, we are bringing the contractor to complete. Those that have issues, we terminate. And then we now have a restoration of without any cost incurred. Lastly, you also talked about whether we can generate a legislation to compel some of the officers who are there. I would suggest that maybe Senate can pick this because West Pokot is just one single entity out of 47, so that an overall legislation law comes, that people see a law has come, mess up in your time, you'll be followed wherever you are. This is what I was suggesting. I know we can try, but if you come up with a bigger one like that, it can assist.
Chichia, probably.
Senator Kibiru.
Just for purposes of clarity, we are dealing with an issue here of using money that has not been budgeted. But at the same time, we need to find out whether, even where the money had not been budgeted, was the procurement process followed for purposes of competitiveness and for purposes of the law. This is good for the record, Chair.
And maybe just to add to that, before you respond, Governor, your last concern has already been captured in the Constitution, Article 2265, which says that if the holder of a public office, including a political office, directs or approves the use of public funds contrary to law or instructions, the person is liable for any loss arising from that use and shall make good the loss whether the person remains a holder of the office or not. So it is already a constitutional provision. One cannot run away from their acts simply because they're out of office. Now, on the issue raised by Senator Kibiru on procurement, compliance with the procurement, I mean, from the onset, Senator Kibiru, there are no procurement plans. And that's where it starts from. And so even if subsequently there was an attempt to sanitize the procurement process, it has started wrongly. But Governor, you might have a different perspective.
No, I don't have a different one, Chair. You are right. You know, when you have zero vote, it means it's not in the procurement plan for the entire year, unless you introduce it in the supplementary, which is missing here. We have learned a lot in our time trying to rectify this. It's very common in West Pokot County, and that's why most of the time myself and my team have been stuck trying to sort out things and make sure that every regulation in the law in Kenya, procurement, everything is followed to the dot. Yes.
Now, the mood of the members is that this is obviously a breach of the law, and we should proceed. I also take the view that now that we're in Uasin Gishu and in the County Assembly Chamber, and we have got members of the Public Accounts Committee of Uasin Gishu, it is important for us as Senate to expound the basis for our recommendations. And that's why I've encouraged a little bit more time so that even our counterpart committee can know what the law says about reallocations, what the law says about procurement planning, what the law says about budgeting. It is capacity building, but I don't want us to belabor it. Senator Olekina?
Just one more issue. I was just listening to the governor, and he has said that now, currently, is carrying out proper due diligence to ensure that the law is followed. And what we are seeing here is that there was no procurement plan. Could you tell us now whether in your current term, in the first year, have you had a procurement plan? And I know you came in between a financial year. And so I don't know whether you did a supplementary budget to be able to ensure that everything goes by the law, because it will be important for us to know as we move forward. Because, I mean, we've been talking here with my colleague, and everything here is an illegality. And there's really no way we can be able to pin you down because you're not there. But of course, you know you take the responsibility as a governor, current governor. So if you can tell us a little bit what measures you're taking in terms of that issue of the procurement plan.
Chair, you are right. What we have done, when we came in, I was sworn in on 22nd of August, 2017. The immediate thing that I did, and I was grateful because I was going to mention later on in my final remarks how we should be doing our sourcing for people in Kenya for certain positions. Having been a permanent secretary before, so I quickly rallied the staff, whom I discovered they were so low in the cadre. You can't have somebody in charge of procurement at Job Group J. Can you? No. It was there. And you put a top fellow at Job Group Q. So when I came in, I gave them special leave so that I can take over to see, so that they don't, no malpractice comes. But the immediate person you should be consulting is J. So confusion. So we have tried to sort out those and making sure that appropriately senior people in certain cadre must be present first so that they guide you. I'm not an expert. 2, we also did a supplementary. Quickly, we were the first county in Kenya to come up with our own supplementary that time. And then, as a result of that supplementary, you cannot control of budget cannot pass without having procurement plans. So all our procurement plans were fed in the system, and that's why we were able to spend. And then we also did supplementary 2, and then the plan also was there. So we for that one, I can assure you, members, everything is okay. Even now, we are doing our first supplementary to be introduced next week for this financial year. So we are moving on. And then building capacity, and I'm grateful for the national government agencies when we asked them to come, National Treasury, to come and give capacity building to our staff. Now that we brought new chief officers, new CECs, a number of them came, including, so we have a lot. Various agencies participated in trying to assist us to come to speed and to the level so appropriately required. So we have tried. Yeah.
Broad question, where was the control of budget during this period?
During which period?
2014, 2015. Because you've just mentioned that the control of budget will not authorize withdrawals without procurement plans and budgets. And obviously they were not there. What was happening? Was there a dysfunction at the level of the control of budgets?
Chair, I would not be able to answer that one, but what I know is that currently we are guided properly. Then I may not be able to answer and ask. It's a question that may be broadly asked. I hope control of budget is here because the they will be maybe in a position to answer.
It will not escape our recommendation to find out what intervention the Control of Budget took at that time in pursuit of their constitutional duty. Now, members, we have said enough on this, and basically the law was flouted, and the consequences prescribed in the Act, PFM Act, Procurement Act, must apply. And the governor must also take quick measures, including disciplinary measures, on staff who are still in the county. Senator Faki, yes. Last word, then we move to issue number 2.
Chair, maybe, although not related, the governor could shed light on the amount of pending bills that he inherited from the previous administration.
Governor, do you have that?
Chair,
as at the time you took over office?
Chair, as at the time we took over, yes, there were pending bills. You can expect that pending bills will be there if this is the type of budget that we were having, where we'll build, and you have a project for 400 million and you start with the 20 million, how many years it will take you to build? You recall, I was a time I raised that query when we were there. It will take over 20 years. You are giving 20 million per year. And that's no longer a project that's missed. So what we have done is, so now we don't have those challenges. Challenges will be there, but we don't have that kind of...
Do you have the figure?
Yes, we have the figure. The figure is about 500 million.
500 million?
Yes, which I am, at the moment, my government is putting, we are doing our supplementary. We want to capture and put funding for as much as possible in this year, so that in the next year we wipe out all of them.
And when you closed the last financial year, what was the accounts payable? The pending bills, as at the close of the last financial year?
That's what I'm giving you, Chair. 500
million?
Yes.
Not at the time of assumption of office?
No, at the time of assumption, they were about 300, 350. And is what I'm saying, plus what was spilling off from the contracts that were going on during our time. So it's cumulative about 500, which I'm confirming to you, we have put funding. Those projects that were running for years, we are bringing them to a stop so that we can have decent projects going on, so that we are not held up at ransom on a project that is not a priority, that may not be a priority, and we can do it one at a time rather than having a contractor running a huge project that we do not need all of it as it is.
Members, when we get to issue number 20, we can further interrogate this issue of accounts payable, and we note that it has grown since Professor took over. We'll want to find out the reasons for that. I will then guide members that we go to issue number 2 and 2.1 on various contracts. But because they are related to number 1, the only question that I want to ask, Governor, is can you give us a current status? So for construction of Agricultural Training College at a contract sum of 233 million, could you just update us whether that was a budget or that was paid? And what is the current status of that project? I know you've got a detailed report from NCA, which we might not appreciate now, but just give us an overview. And even the education office block, ICU, blood bank, etc.
Yeah, you have asked a valid question on this agricultural construction of agricultural training college, which we have since now turned to a constituent college of Kisii University. It is 90% finished. But the expenditure that was spent on the same, as from the when we did the audit and the assurance of the integrity of the building by NCA, this is the report that we got. It says that Chair, the contract for this college initially, it was a tender number that the contract sum, they decided to split into two phases. Phase 1 was 233,543,198 shillings and 30 cents. And the payments were all done. Total payments for phase 1 was 233,609,318.40. Phase 2, the breakdown is given. Total payment for phase 2 was 85 million. So you note, Chair, and then we also have PC, SAMs, electricals, and so on and so on. And works that were pending. In conclusion, it says that the project manager to issue the instruction for the extra works, of course. No, total amount paid for phase 1 and phase 2 combined, 319,215,667 shillings and 70 cents. But the total value of work done when the NCA went to evaluate is different from the total amount paid. It is 266,566,596, meaning there was an overpayment to this building or this project of 52,659,071 shillings and 30 cents. Now, that's why they said the contractor was racing together with Public Works. They said they were talking about remeasurements of works, which, like I said, we stopped it there. So the measurement has not been done.
Governor, you have submitted a document before us, and I think it addresses some of these concerns. And interestingly, so phase 1 at 233 million has been paid 100.03%, fully paid.
Yes.
But the project is at 90% completion.
Yes.
A phase 2 was introduced at a cost of 117 million.
Yes.
And out of the 117 million, 85 million has been paid. What was the scope? What was the scope of phase 2? What was to be delivered in phase 2 for 117 million?
Chair, like I did mention, this was one building, one project. The wisdom of the county at that time, they decided to split it into two. Phase 1, phase 2. So phase 1 is phase 2, phase 1. You can see it's ones are the same. It's on the same conductor. Yeah.
So, and your audit report says it remains unclear what the county was paying for and what was being valued at 117 million. It goes ahead and says the project is being implemented very close to riparian land. And you know what SANI has been doing to buildings close to riparian land. in Nairobi. Mr. Governor, is this how we are going to be using public funds? And I raise that knowing that you are not the decision maker, but you have taken over office. I think this is one area where you must demonstrate to this committee that you have engaged the relevant agencies to pursue those who may have made the wrong decisions or those who may have conspired to defraud the people of West Pokot.
Chair, you are very right. This now brings the question, where was NEMA? Where was National Construction Authority? What happens to the committee that the president constituted in the national arena dealing with buildings and the county? There was either conspiracy or just people decided to keep quiet. I'm now left with a mess. What we have done now, together with a new client, Kisii University, that I've put in now as a constituent college, is to see how to best make sure that the water is drained to the river, back to the river, so that we try to...
You are trying to move the river?
No, the river is not moved. You move the swamp, the water from coming into the building by making sure that we build walls along the river so that we compel the water to flow. This is the story. And because what option will we put now here?
Members, how do we proceed? Because I mean, it's just glaring that this is a mess.
Chair, when I had asked the governor what he has tried to do in terms of looking at the management response that he said was prepared by his team, I wanted him to give us direction because I've looked at the entire document. I read it last night, I've read it today, and everything is an illegality. So I don't know how, Chair, we are going to proceed on these matters. And I don't know, I think maybe without being so extreme, I'd probably just say we adopt the auditor's report as it is.
Senator Kibiru?
Chair, to be honest, and with all fairness, this is one of the worst cases we have handled since we started dealing with these audited accounts. I would want to concur with my friend, Senator Lekina, that probably we need to adopt in totality the Auditor General's report.
Chair.
Senator Faki?
Yes, from some reports, the EACC was in your county last week to inquire about your deputy governor. Did you draw their attention to this glaring illegalities and irregularities so that they can deal with them instead of dealing with an issue that is an non-issue as such? Because if your deputy governor is on an unpaid leave, there's nothing that the county loses.
Governor, why is EACC pursuing Atudo Nyang and not the people who made these decisions?
Chair, I think the EACC are doing their work. What they did, EACC already has this report. They came for the NCA report. They also come for this evaluation report on all the ongoing projects. They have taken the auditor's report, which you have, to the extent that I think they are working on it. Not only that, we also gave them a list of all the previous property that was owned by the county council that purportedly were given to people before the first county government came, so that we can see how to recover those plots. Because Kapenguria is very peculiar. It's sitting on a very tiny land, although West Pokot is wide, but Kapenguria itself is one of the most densely, every inch of an acre matters. So so EACC is pursuing this. But I think EACC also were quick when they saw that some members petitioned that the deputy governor was not around. And so they just inquired. EACC did not do anything. They just called me to come and answer. Although I'm told some media were reporting that Lonyangapuo was hijacked and put in a car by the EACC all the way from West Pokot, and the car was moving like a Mirage vehicle to Eldoret. There was nothing like that.
Chairman.
Senator Linturi,
I want Lonyangapo to retract that statement about the movement of the Mirage vehicle, because he has no idea. He has never been a driver. Neither does he transport Mirage to understand the speed at which Mirage vehicles are driven, because he's trying to insinuate that Mirage drivers are careless, and those vehicles are probably not supposed to be on the road, or probably the police, who are the law enforcement agencies, are not doing their work, which is not right, Mr. Speaker.
Professor Lonyangapuo, what expertise do you have as far as Mirage is concerned?
Chair, I withdraw that statement. And number two, to say, some people were saying that I was moved very fast. So there was nothing like that, and I think we need to give credit. ESCC was doing their work, just to inquire, but the media also needs to be reasonable, because you don't report sensational things which don't make sense. If I am arrested like Obado was, that is not news. You will be seeing that your hands are tied and you have done a mistake. So really, I think it calls upon all of us to be responsible in how we handle matters of Kenya.
Sorry.
Senator Kibiru?
As much as we are saying we adopt the report, maybe on 2.2, the governor need to tell us whether he still has the residence that was being constructed at 113 million.
We were going to that. I believe that the decision to adopt the report is that we are not objecting to the Auditor General's findings, but we also have to assess everything so that even the people of West Pokot can understand what went wrong, and even the County Assembly of Western Gishu and others following can start seeing how devolution can succeed and how devolution can fail. So we don't just want to say that it's all adopted. Now, Senator Matangi, if it's on 2.1, you can make the final comment, then we go to 2.2.
Yeah, Chair, I just wanted to closely concur with what you've said, with the exposition that, Chair, as we adopt the report, or if we want to adopt the report, Chair, then we would have to be careful in detail so that it does not let off the hook the culprits. And because it is in the process of this exposition that then we go alongside the recommendations to individuals who are perpetrators and who are part and parcel of this. So I believe, Chair, we should yes, adapt some of the work that has been done by the Auditor General, but let's look into detail and see and make the appropriate recommendations.
Very well. We'll be definitely recommending that the ESCC and relevant agencies to follow up the issues of these contracts amounting to 431 million, and more particularly the issue of the ATC, and more particularly this issue of phase 2, which does not seem to be supported by documents or any scope definition. Auditor General, let's move to issue number 2.2.
Chair, 2.2, ownership of the official residence for the governor. A local construction company was awarded a tender for the construction of the governor's residence at a contract sum of Kenya shillings 113,8,580 on 24th April 2015. However, the contract do not reflect the date of commencement and completion of the project. The county has not acquired title for the land, which it intends to construct the residence. Since the land in question is a subject of court case at Kitale High Court, further, the land is encroached by a person who has a permanent house on it. The physical verification carried out on 26th October 2015 confirmed that the project is at the substructure level and no certificate has been issued for payment. In the circumstances, it has not been possible to confirm the ownership status of the land on which the governor's residence stands.
Governor's response?
Yeah, 2.2. Our management response: the official residence of the governor of West Pokot sits on a parcel of land COA/55, which is a public land registered in the name of County Council of POKOT. The registration is dated 17 May 1979. It should be noted that the county government of West Pokot is a successor of the county council and other defunct local authorities within its jurisdiction. As a public land, COA/55 is not available for alienation. However, it is true that an individual claims to possess an allotment letter and has taken occupation of some section of the land where the governor's residence has been constructed. Initially, the county government had an intention to take legal action against the said individual, but later opted to settle the dispute out of court through negotiation with the objective of ensuring that the person forgets the government land. Chair, these are some of the cases I mentioned earlier that we have submitted to EACC. Some people using the previous local authorities, municipality, town councils, decided to come to the prime land of West Pokot, dish out themselves to plots and houses. So we want to remove them. This one is one of them. When I came in, I found the person was still there. We have since removed the person. And there's no case here now. And the neighbors who are there, I think they are backing and going. Because it's strange that somebody who is very rich or can get the opportunity to buy your own land comes to squeeze yourself in the public land.
What is the acreage of the land in question?
Yeah, I don't have the exact, but the title it shows here. It is 3.4 hectares. 3.4 hectares. It's yeah. No. It's 0.345. 0.345 hectares, which is
Now, you confirm that there is no issue in court now and the out-of-court settlement has been concluded?
Yeah, what we did, this person, we have since removed the person. We have seen, because we found initially the previous government was trying to entertain the person, and this person did not have any valid document. So since we have removed and have not had any problem for the last 1 year, I don't think we should even hear about them.
Senator Faki.
I happen to have been in Kapenguria early this year with the Committee on Delegated Legislation. The governor's residence has not been completed at the time I was there. Has it been completed now?
Chair, like I did mention, those are some of the projects. One of the projects that had been recommended by the NCA that we need to look at it afresh. You may find that the building has been overpaid and the building is not complete. And incidentally, it will be the only county residence that is facing the office in Kenya. So you walk from your office and you go to the office, to the house. When Raya follow you, no problem. So, but it's about to be finished. We have budgeted for it this year, Chair.
But the report you've submitted to us indicates that out of the project contract sum of 113 million, 59.08% has been paid. That is 66,764,000. Has there been any further payments on this project?
Chair, the project report as given the latest by NCA, because it says that the project contract sum was 113,880 shillings. The project period was not even indicated. Commencement date was not indicated. Progress, but payment to date was 66,764 as at that time. But if you look at the percentage of work done and the percentage of money paid, it looks like we have overpaid. Because so the recommendations are here, and we have Chair can confirm that the county is seized of this matter. The relevant ministry now, together with the contractor, the funding is now going to be resumed to complete that building this year, which is not much as shown here. Because you'll find that the client, which happens to be us, county government, and procedurally paid 59% of the contract sum, while a substantial amount of work was still ongoing. So you pay a lot of money and the work is still not done, and so on and so on. Implementation is well out of contract period. Contract extension was not a fail. These are some of the remarks that we have.
Okay.
Yes.
Governor, now Senator Linturi and Senator Faki, I want you to give guidance to the governor, because the governor has thrown out the squatter who alleges to have a letter of allotment. And maybe throwing out the squatter effectively removes a person from the vicinity. But does it deal with the underlying problem?
Probably, yeah. You know, there are a number of factors that should be looked into in the right context to determine exactly who is the legal owner of the land. For example, if the governor was able to evict the squatter, that does not necessarily say that the land belongs to him. I think it would have been better for the governor to tell this committee whether he has a title in the name of the county government for that piece of land. Then if he doesn't have the title, then what is proof of ownership does he have to demonstrate that the land belongs to the county of the county government of West Pokot, when there is someone else who has an allotment letter that he alleges is valid and which must have been given by the county, by the defunct local authority. So, Chair, I think it's necessary for us to know. And probably, Chair, before is a date of eviction, for how long do you think this squatter and sat on that piece of land? Because there's a principle in law that we call the principle of adverse possession. If you have occupied land quietly, quiet occupation of land for a period, I think exceeding 12 years, then you can easily lay claim on that piece of land. And when you start any building, was that particular squatter on that piece of land, right? So there are a number of things that must be properly brought out for us to determine whether your investment on that piece of land is not going to waste. But most priorities, what document do you have to demonstrate that land belongs to you?
Senator Faki, before the governor responds.
Just one clarification I want to make, that adverse possession does not apply to the government or a government agency. It only applies to a private citizen or private company. The land always reverts to the state if the owners perish or disappear from the earth. So you cannot sue the government for adverse possession, because land ordinarily vests in the government.
Governor, before you respond, let me acknowledge the presence of a member of the committee. Senator, please go on record.
Senator Millicent Omanga, a member of this committee.
And I also want to acknowledge the presence of members of the County Assembly in whose chamber we are sitting here today. Those who have come in after we are done the introduction, please, we wish to acknowledge you. Introduce yourselves. Members of the County Assembly.
Honorable David Singoy, a member of this committee at the county level. Thank you.
Honorable Ramadan Ali, Chair Park Committee, Wasingishu.
Honorable Pius Kigan, member of this committee.
Yes.
Honorable Francisca Chebret, Vice Chair to this committee, Baringo County.
Very well. Are there members from West Pokot?
I saw some, Chair.
Yes, we would like to acknowledge them. Just introduce yourselves. Any member of a county assembly, be it West Pokot, was in Gishu, Baringo?
Yeah. Yes. Not member of the assembly, but the political advisor to the Governor West Pokot.
Okay.
My name Stephen Kolimuk.
Any other? Let's know who's here.
Siwat Norman, the legal advisor to the Governor West Pokot County. Siwat Norman.
Okay. Quick. Let's make it very quick.
Okay, my name is Loasco Geoffrey, legal advisor, County Attorney, Pokot County.
Okay.
My name is Michael Okitam, Chief Legal Officer, West Pokot County.
Good. And also acknowledge the presence of a member of the Senate and a friend of this committee. Please go on record.
Good morning, Chairman and all people present. My name is Senator Cherargei, a friend of the committee and the Chair of Justice, Legal and Affairs and Human Rights in the Senate.
You're welcome, Senator. Now, Governor, respond to the issue of land ownership and the queries that were raised by Senator Linturi.
Chair, this land sits next to the county commissioner's office, house. It is also close to the county headquarters of the county government. Which land also, we had to remove some people purporting to own some allotment letters in the year 2012. Chair, there was a euphoria prior to devolution in the year 2013, so that 2010, 2011, 2012, councillors then and clerks decided to dish out government land as an allotment. So even when we asked the mayor at that time to stop so that they can give us land to construct where the headquarters is, those fellows disappeared. So because they know that this is not their land. Having an allotment letter given by a clerk, this is your, and they had not gone through the Ministry of Lands. So together with the previous county government, we are in agreement. Any legal owner of government land must go. So that's why this one, we have an allotment. I mean, we have a title for all the land that is being occupied by others apart from this one. And those people are really, they are aware. We have given a notice that people must go. We even have a green card which shows that this land belongs to Pokot County Council, so and so on and so on. And the dates back to 1979. And these other new entrants came in 2012. So they have no legal basis.
Governor, issues of instruments of ownership, and this committee has interrogated a similar matter regarding land in Nairobi, where issues of allotment and titles and surrenders came up. What do you have in your possession? Do you have a title for this land? For this parcel, this 0.345 hectares?
Chair, we don't have the title deed yet.
You don't have the title deed?
What we have is the official documents dating back to years. And I bring to your attention that we have been given 2 registrars in the Ministry of Lands. So all our documentation is being done now in West Pokot. Yes.
Senator Linturi?
Chair, I want to ask for your indulgence and beg to be excused. You realize that this committee has a membership of 3 members who are in the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, and one of our things that we're also supposed to do, which is as important as this, to visit the GK prison here in order to establish the status and living conditions of the prisoners here as a part of our mandate at the Legal Affairs. So the chairman of the committee does not have anybody else to support him, and we must have at least 3 members visiting the prison. So I'm begging to be excused and ask Faki to remain, because I'm also a member of that committee, so that at least we are able to share and to have the 2 meetings continue without interruption and to have quorum. That's what I have to say.
Senator Nandi, you are completely out of order. To come fishing for my members. and taking them away. Next time, we shall not allow you to come even as a friend of the committee. But we understand that we've got a packed program as Senate, and we shall indulge you. And I think the direction is that Senator Faki should remain behind so we can proceed.
Chair, for record is that at 11 I'm sharing my committee meeting in Loom 2.
Okay, that's fine. So we will proceed. We wish you well in your venture. Senator Omanga, you had a contribution?
No, the Powers and Privilege Committee was starting at 11.
Okay, that's fine. We are few, Senate has few members, and we have lots of things to do, so we appreciate that we'll have to spread ourselves thin. We want to conclude on this issue. Governor, you must have instruments of ownership for this land for you to confirm that the county government of West Pokot owns this land. And number two, we shall refer to the recommendations of NCA on that project. And this is an issue where we must invite the EACC, DCI, and relevant institutions to investigate, because this looks like misuse of public funds. We move on to 2.3, another construction project, Chester Teachers Training College. Auditor General, quickly.
Chair 2.3, construction of Chester Teachers Training College. Our records made available indicate that a contractor for the construction of Chester Teachers Training College was awarded to a contractor at a contract cost of Kenya shillings 37,400,537 during the year under review. The project commencement date was April 2015 and was to be completed in 21 weeks. However, the county did not consult the national government before signing the contract as required by Article 186 and 187 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. The completed works for the project was valued at Kenya shillings 20,022,298, or approximately 59%, as at 19th February 2016, or 47 weeks after the commencement of the project, resulting to a delay in the project completion in excess of 26 weeks. Also, physical verification carried out on 4th March 2016 revealed that the project had stalled due to unavailability of funds, and the contractor was not on site and had not been paid for the completed works. Consequently, the county funds were irregularly committed for the construction of the college, and it is not clear when the project will be completed.
Governor.
Chair, the management response. The county government of West Pokot entered into a memorandum of understanding with the National Government Ministry of Education, Science and Technology on collaboration in infrastructure development for the proposed Teachers Training College at Chester in Pokot Central Sub-County. This MOU is dated 9th of January 2015, and it was signed by the County Director of Education and Acting County Secretary of West Pokot County. It is true that the project has delayed in completion due to factors which include low capacity of the contractor, inconsistency in financing of the project. As at the time of compiling this report, the project status is as follows. The roofing is complete, superstructure is complete, internal and external finishes partially complete. The current administration of the county government of West Pokot has carried out technical and financial audits of all its incomplete projects with the objective of making policy-based decisions about these projects. The county government shall ensure that all projects implemented using public funds shall be completed after we study the report, after we study the project report, and shall be completed with time and utilized for the original purpose or converted to other use as may be appropriate. We have put an appendix of 2.3, which contains the MOU that was signed then and recent photos of this project. And we have also availed, Chair, the same recommendation by NCA as is shown in the document. Thank you.
Now, Governor, this raises a fundamental constitutional question. Article 189 of the Constitution talks about cooperation between national and county governments. But we went further and enacted the Intergovernmental Relations Act. When the county undertakes a function that is assigned to the national government, the expectation is that there has to be an intergovernmental agreement. You are talking of an MOU signed by the County Director of Education and the CEC for Education. Does that meet the threshold of an intergovernmental agreement?
Chair, you are right. What it entails, remember, we have primary schools, secondary schools, colleges are still under the national government. But in practice on the ground, a number of issues and a number of activities that should have been undertaken by the responsible ministries or government are not being done. So essentially for this case, a letter should have been written from the college to the county requesting for this support. It's a very new college started that time, and everybody was for it that it should be started. A letter should have come. We have tried to look for the letter from the county, from the ministry, and that letter should come from the BOM of the college through their relevant offices and maybe the PS and so on, or something like that, to compel us now to say we do a letter with the representative of government, national government in the ground, who happens to be the Director of Education. That's the way it is. We even do a lot of small things today. Some classroom has collapsed. So that type of letter that we all do things together really should be, I think that spirit of engagement should be, it needs to be activated, but we need to be careful so that we don't overuse our money on issues that don't touch us.
Governor, I am alive to the fact that a circular was issued that allows counties to invest in primary and secondary education infrastructure where there is a budget. And I think it limited it to primary and secondary schools. I don't think it expanded it to teacher training colleges and universities, such that where the county government ventures into that, tertiary institutions that are the responsibility of the national government, there ought to be an agreement. And I raise this question not just because of what has happened in West Pokot, but to guide other counties engaging in similar adventures. What is the threshold of an intergovernmental agreement? An MOU between the CEC and the County Director of Education?
No, it should be, in this case, it's county secretary, not CEC. For this MOU, the county secretary, acting county secretary signed, who is the legal person to do, to sign on behalf of county government. And I think that's the threshold, Chair. But some minutes need to be there to show that the governor or the deputy was there. And this together with the national officials in the county, this agreement, before we engage into that, to support.
Was the County Director of Education, in your estimation, on the basis also of your background in public service, empowered to enter into binding contracts on behalf of the national government?
Chair, you are right. What Director of Education, he ends at secondary schools and below at the county level. As to the other one, I'm not aware, but I think we should have engaged with the PS or the director of the director in charge of colleges and so on, in the Republic. That way, it may give credence to that need, because they may not be knowing that we have spent that money, and sometimes they may be having that money in their vote, and if they see that the county is almost coming to assist, they can easily give more money.
Chair, if I may, the county government was struggling in meeting its budget on the projects that have been approved by their budget. Now, why did you have to go into other projects that are not your preserve, yet the essential projects that were in your budget were not being adequately funded?
Chair, like I did mention, I had the same question you're asking when I was seated where you are seated. When I was the senator for West POKOT. It looked awkward that a need ECDs which is developed, and the vocational training college which is developed. We built about 50 ECD centers that are incomplete in 5 years, and that's less than 40 million. And here we are going to build something mega. I think what was the problem was because we didn't have any college. So somebody would just wake up and say, we have built college, but they were not following procedures. And lastly, and that's why I think the people of West POKOT decided to recall me to go and work with them and put some of these things in order, so that we don't repeat and do things which essentially would have been done by another arm.
I'm trying to look for the Chester report on the NCA document. Is it included there? It's on which page? Okay, I've seen it. It's written Chester in the English fashion. Because it will guide us so that we don't have to ask you for question. Could you refer me to the right page? The pagination is not very well done, Governor.
The pagination.
Okay, it's page 51. And the status that the project has stalled?
Yes.
Contract sum, 37 million. Payments, 88%, 33 million. Poor workmanship. Project implementation is out of contract period. What is the percentage done, Governor? It's not indicated. All we know is that 88% has been paid. In your estimation, what is the percentage that has been completed?
Chair, let me consult this data document for. Look at this one. And like I didn't mention, I read in the report in my management response, as my officer checks, the whole of the roofing is done, the whole of superstructure is done, internal and external finishes almost partially. We are it should be less than 70% of the building done, although more money has been paid.
Your committee findings indicate that percentage of work done is 60%, percentage paid is 88%.
Yes.
That's correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Members, again, to avoid flogging a dead horse, illegalities, irregularities. But that conversation on intergovernmental agreements is something that even the members of the County Assembly of Uasin Gishu and other assemblies must take seriously. Yesterday we were talking about joint venture partnerships, projects between counties. But projects between counties and national governments, there is also a constitutional and a statutory requirement for agreements to be entered. I think that is a big issue to be highlighted. Otherwise, this EACC, DCI, investigation and action to be taken on those who made these decisions. Could we now go to the hotel, to the tourist hotel, and see whether we'll be served lunch there? Auditor General.
Chair, construction of tourist hotel included in the acquisition of assets figure of Kenya shillings 1 5,695,218,867 is construction of buildings figure of Kenya shillings 562,566,468, which includes an expenditure of Kenya shillings 15,183,588, being initial 4% payment for certificate number 1 for the construction of a tourist hotel with an estimated contract price of Kenya shillings 352,123,565. However, this project was not included in the County Integrated Development Plan, CIDP, and only Kenya shillings 16,164,538 was budgeted for the hotel during the year, resulting to an overcommitment of Kenya shillings 335,959,027 shillings, which the county may not be able to finance. Further, the contract agreement did not indicate the project commencement and completion dates. Consequently, the contract for the construction of tourist hotel was entered into contrary to Section 26, subsection 3A of the Public Procurement and Disposal Act 2005, which stipulated that all procurement shall be within the approved budget of the procuring entity and shall be planned through an annual procurement plan.
Governor?
Chair, management response. The project was included, this project was included in the first governor's manifesto, which formed the integral part of the development plan for West Pokot County. Then, the project was to be implemented in phases of many financial years. Initial budgetary provision of 30 million was approved for project in 2014-15 financial year. However, the controller of budget issued instructions to the county government of West Pokot to seek alternative financing for this project. This slowed down implementation of the project, but the county government intends to make a final decision about financing and look for public-private partnership in order to complete this project. And I know my people picked an appendix which they showed the governor's manifesto of 2013. Yes, Chair.
Governor, in the Public Finance Act or legislation, which one features the word manifesto?
There's not, Chair. You know, Chair, I have labored to know what was the motivation for this hotel to build and citation and location for it. But only to realize, zoom in, that was the driving force then.
Senator Olekina?
Chair, like I earlier said, this issue, these are just irregularities, and I think we're just wasting time. We should just adopt the report as it is. But because of procedure, I want to pick up from the response from the management and also balance it with what the auditor said. The auditor said that it was only 16 million which had been budgeted. But in the management response, the governor stated that 30 million was budgeted and approved. So which is correct there? So that's number one. And then number two, I think, Chair, you've picked up what I wanted to ask about this manifesto. Is the manifesto the CIDP? I mean, if it was, or maybe if the CIDP was based on the manifesto, why was this not included there? These are just irregularities, illegalities, and I think the sooner we adopt this report, the better.
Senator Wamatangi?
Yes, Chair. Just a few issues. One, Chair, I think, yes, as we said earlier, though it will be advisable, so in the interest of time, to adapt some of the recommendations of the auditor, I think it's also important, Chair, to use the moment as a learning process for most of the counties, and I think you had earlier alluded to that particular fact. Chair, if you look at, for example, the background, and like even this town where we are sitting in Eldoret, there's a famous hotel called Sirikwa in Eldoret, and a hotel which was earlier under the management of African Tours and Hotels. And then Chair, with a whole chain of hotels, like for example, the Tea Hotel in Kericho, Sunset Hotel in Kisumu, all those hotels were being managed with the government having a hand in them then. And Chair, only for government to realize, like it did along the way in many other projects, that government cannot involve itself in all manner of businesses, including hotels and restaurants and kiosks and fishing and anything else, Chair. And that is why you find that most of those hotels, even today, Chair, some of them were auctioned, others sold, and they're white elephants, so to say the least. So I think it would be important, Chair, to take the moment and also advise county governments that you know, they cannot go on a treasure hunt and on a probability game, Chair, whereby if a county thinks that the next thing that they would want to do is a ski resort, then you find that you know, Chair, money is pulled from useful sources, and then they start saying they'll do a ski resort probably in a place like West Pokot, where the sun shines from morning to evening. And so, Chair, secondly, I think also as far as the law is concerned, it is envisaged in the law that before an entity engages in procurement, Chair, and tendering, the funds must be available. And if you see, Chair, how would a county government say that they want to undertake a project and allocate some part of that fund, and they're saying that this is going to be a very long-term project over many years, so they'll be taking bits and bits of public money? I think what the governor says would be the right way to go. That, for example, for such ventures, seek public-private partnerships, whereby people can come, invest. It will encourage investment, investors. It will also create opportunities for employment and take off the hands of government that premonition that was there earlier, that the government is able to do and manage everything. So I think, Chair, on this one, we should be really very firm and include surcharge people who had those kind of ideas, Chair, which are costly to the county.
What I want to say to the governor also is that, Governor, we know you're a thorough man, but your response here is not serious. You are a thorough and a straightforward person, and so you need to give us a thorough and a straightforward response. If something went wrong, we need to call it as such, because telling us that this project was rose out of manifesto, the manifesto should then feed into a CIDP, which then feeds into an ADP, which then feeds into a budget, which then feeds into an appropriations act. So we will censure you for subjecting us to theater by bringing things like this before us. Where you know things were not done properly, it is important to say things were not done properly. And already you have given us a report of the various committees that you established that indicate that indeed this was, I think your county is a home of white elephants. The first white elephant to be discussed in this country was in Tuckwell, which later on at least was converted into something useful. But this, what is the location of this hotel, first of all? Where is it located for us to get a picture?
Yeah, thank you. Although West Pokot was the first place for Kenyans to hear about white elephant project, actually it turned out to be a black elephant and gold. It's very nice, because except that it had not been completed to the final use. Some 70,000 acres of land was supposed to be irrigated, but otherwise a good project. This hotel is located far from Kapenguria town, on your way to Kacheliba. The strange thing about it is that it's on a cliff, and most things are not available. You know, no water, no electricity, no nothing, very many things. And like you did say, and like Senator Narok did say, some of these things that somebody just wakes up and say, let there be a hotel here. And without thinking the use about it. You remember I was very big, I was very very concerned. I even spoke several times in the floor of Senate about the same project. So indeed, what we have done, we have stopped it. We are roofing it, and then we are looking for. We now want to utilize the law of PP, public-private partnership, so that we can engage somebody to run it. And it is a challenge that the people who are making decisions could do that time.
Governor, looking at the report of NCA, project contract sum 352 million, payments 209 million. Is that a fact, that 209 million has been sunk into this elephant, whether white or black?
Yes, Chairman.
209 million.
209,592,752 shillings and 72 cents, which is 59.52% of the amount already paid.
Yeah,
Senator Matangi?
Is, I think now that moves from the threshold of probably a misadventure or misappropriation into a crime. Because how can one justify the wastage of 200 million in a county like West Pokot, where indeed West Pokot is one of those counties that every Kenyan would be thinking that for the interest of the citizens of that county, that prudence would be the first order of any expenditure. And without really mincing words, this must be taken up by the committee. We should not leave this just in the ambit of writing our report. I mean, we should make very stern recommendations, including recovery of these monies from the officers themselves who engaged in this plunder. That is plunder, Chair. I mean, how can 200 million just be sunk like that, and then we just let it be, Chair? So my thought would be that there has to be very stern recommendations that this money must be recovered by all means, and including prosecution should be recommended for people who make such irresponsible commitments for the public funds. Chair.
Senator Lekina?
Chair, I concur with the sentiments of Senator Matangi, and it should actually go to the former governor. He has to be held personally responsible, because you cannot be entrusted to safeguard public money and you go into an exercise which cannot even be explained. It is unlawful, it is illegal, and I think if there is any report that we can adapt sooner than even wasting a lot of time is this report, because it doesn't matter what we do here. Everything is just against the law, and not only the junior officers but also the governor himself, because the buck stops there. The law is very clear. He has to take personal responsibility, and I concur with Senator Matangi that not only the criminal aspect of it, but even the recovery of all those assets. And in fact, that guy, wherever he is now, is not even fit to hold any public office. It is ridiculous.
Members, what about the contractors and service providers involved? Because this is it's a collusion. Why would a contractor be paid 200 million for a job not done? Governor, have you taken any effort on assessment of service providers and contractors and blacklisting some of those who have been involved in this project?
Yeah, you will note from the recommendation of the NCA, very strange things came out of this report, that most of the contractors were not validly registered by NCA. And you are valid when you are up to date with your registration every year. You pay so that you are checked and ascertained by NCA that your capacity is still the same to undertake, or better, to undertake projects, so that you are not pushed to a different class or grade as a contractor. Most of them, including this one, was not validly registered. In fact, the NCA decided when they told us, we told them, take action. I think they have been blacklisted. A number of them, their recommendation is very clear here. Anybody found doing government projects as a contractor and you are not currently a member of NCA, you are not up to date, they registered, which is good so that we can wipe out this the quacks from the field. And two, you will also note that the project had not been registered by law. They say the project had not been registered by NCA as required by the NCA Act and regulations. Major projects like this one should have been registered, so it was not. Chair, like members have mentioned, it may be appropriate in your wisdom to visit West Pokot and come and see these projects that we are talking about. They look interesting, and for the good of assisting us and working together to safeguard Kenyan funds, people must take responsibility of what they did.
We shall proceed as had been earlier suggested by Senator Matangi. There is criminality in this, and that has to be pursued, but also the issue of blacklisting of service providers, that needs to be emphasized, and NCA must give us that confirmation that it has done so. And we must have a conversation with the control of budget. How 209 million was released? Because you can't just pay without the control of budget's approval. And the control of budget was existing during this period. We must ask those tough questions. And the control of budget must assure us of whatever measures that they're going to take to prevent further pilferage. Can we move to another misadventure, which is construction of Kenya Medical Training Center in Kapenguria? But before that, I want to acknowledge the presence of a member of the Senate and a friend of the committee. Senator, please go on record.
Mr. Chairman, I thank you. I'm George Khaniri, the senator representing the great county of Vihiga in the Senate of the Republic of Kenya, and I'm a friend of this committee.
You're welcome. You should have mentioned also a former member of the County Public Accounts Committee.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, indeed. I even sat on that committee with the current governor for West Pokot,
who today is engaged in all sorts of misadventures, as we have established. Okay, can we look at number 4?
Chair, construction projects at Kenya Medical Training Center, Kapenguria. Included in the acquisition of assets figure of Kenya shillings 1,695,218,867 is construction of buildings figure of Kenya shillings 562,566,468, which include an expenditure of Kenya shillings 74,908,057 incurred on the construction of a classroom, library, skills laboratory, and administration block of Kenya Medical Training Center, KMTC, in Kapenguria. However, KMTC is a national government entity, and there is no evidence that the county had consulted with the national government before signing the contract. Consequently, the county may have incurred an irregular expenditure of Kenya shillings 74,908,057 on the construction of the college facility under the mandate of the national government, contrary to requirement of the Constitution.
Governor?
Chair, this one is, a management response is similar to that one of Chester, where the county decided to build a project on behalf of national government, and in this one there is no MOU at all. There is no MOU, there's nothing to show that we were given permission to proceed with it. In conclusion.
Very candid. Senator Lekina?
I like the professor, he's being very honest. And I wish all governors would come here that honest. You know, you say it as it is. So this is another illegality, Chair. And I wish there was any evidence to show any cooperation between the national government and the county government, because then we'd be dealing with that issue as a service that can be done by both as enshrined in the Constitution. But this, to me, is, I would respond to it just the same way that I responded to all the other issues And I would just say we adapt the Auditor General's recommendations.
Senator Matangi?
Yeah, Chair, in light of really the direction that these audit queries have taken and the answers provided by the county government, Chair, I think it will be prudent for the committee to take a position to the extent of determining that it is important for this committee to pay a visit to the county of West Pokot and do a ground assessment of, because I was just trying to live through these queries and the responses, Chair, and probably more than 3/4 of them are about constructions and buildings that have either not been finalized, that have not approved, and so on. And I think, Chair, it would do good for purposes of assessing, what is the extent of the damage, the losses, Chair, what would be the best way forward, and again, what recommendations should appropriately be made after evaluation. And a ground evaluation, Chair, would be the best option for this committee, so that we don't become guilty, Chair, of also complacence in having failed to act appropriately when it's called, for us to do so, Chair. So I would be recommending that why don't this committee take time to go and assess this project, see for ourselves, indeed, whether this has happened, and we can make this one of the case examples of where this committee has taken action that will be even deterrent in the future of current governors, including the current governor for West Pokot, so that he doesn't also start his own project toward the same direction. And we have 10 disaster years in the same county, Chair. So I believe we should go and see for ourselves what's happening.
That seems to speak to the mood of the committee. I think it's important to have boots on the ground. But Governor, these extensions at the MTC, were they completed, and are they functional, even if we leave the process?
Yes, Chair, the building is complete and it is in use. The only contention we had was, having invested a lot of money in this project, we expected benefits to the county government as well, to the extent that when you are admitting kids for KMTC and studies, we should be able to get it, vacancies. But where you admit one kid out of 100 from West Pokot and we are the one who build it, that's a very, very serious challenge, and it has problems with me and everybody else who is an elected leader. So, but we have cities engaged. Now they are taking more students from us since I came in.
Okay, so there are questions around value for money, even beyond the process. The resolutions we made on the Chester case will apply to this, but furthermore, we are saying we shall endeavor to come and see these projects even before we write our report, but also recommend to relevant bodies investigative to look at these projects, and particularly this one, and confirm whether there was value for money. I mean, we have already established that this was not value for money, and it was not a priority for the county at that point in time. Auditor, I want you to move to number 6.0. We'll come back to 5 later.
Chair, 6.0, construction of office block for Department of Education and ICT. Included in the acquisition of assets figure of Kenya shillings 218,867 is construction of buildings figure of Kenya shillings 562,566,468, which includes an expenditure of Kenya shillings 5,834,313 incurred on construction of an office block for Department of Education and ICT. However, the project was not included in the budget and procurement plan for the Department of Education for the financial year 2014-2015. Consequently, the propriety of the expenditure of Kenya shillings 5,834,313 incurred on construction of office block for Department of Education and ICT for the year ended 30th June 2015 could not be ascertained.
Governor?
Chair, the response for this one is similar to that one of 1.3, which is it is the same construction, which is
essentially that there was no procurement plan, there was no budget, there were reallocations. Governor, I think that was what we discussed in that earlier issue, yes, where you concur that there was a reallocation, but we have already made a ruling that the reallocations had to follow certain
yes,
rules.
Yes.
Okay. So that we don't have to repeat what we said there.
Yeah.
So the recommendations made in 1.4 shall also apply to this. Number 7, Auditor General.
7, construction of bridges, including the acquisition of assets, figure of Kenya shillings 1,695,218,867, is construction of roads, figure of Kenya shillings 273,113,567, which include an expenditure of Kenya shillings 52,212,360 incurred on the construction of 2 bridges on River Leon at Jematon and Motlio, which were completed on 27th June 2014 and 12th September 2014, respectively. However, procurement records such as tender advertisement, list of bidders, tender opening minutes, evaluation reports, signed contract, and completion certificates were not availed for audit verification. Further, an inspection of the bridges on 18th February 2016 revealed that one bridge had already developed cracks, and evidence of poor workmanship, and the contractor had not repaired the cracks as depicted in the picture below. The picture is shown. In the circumstances, it has not been possible to confirm if the procurement of works for the construction of bridges was done in accordance with the Public Procurement and Disposal Act 2005 and the related Procurement and Disposal Regulations 2013, and that the county government obtained value for money on the project.
Governor.
Chair, the management responds that the contract for the construction of the 2 footbridges on River Ion at Jematon and Motrilion was procured using open tender at a total of 27,912,985 shillings and 80 cents, supervised by the county structural engineer who issued completion certificates. The tender advertisement, tender evaluation, tender committee minutes have been made available for audit verification. Chair, that the contractor was to make good where the damage during the defect liability period, and I've seen myself when I went to open some roads around that area, they have repaired.
Senator Lekina.
Governor, I'm sorry to laugh, but this is a footbridge. And there were cars, when it was being opened, cars were attempted to cross. I just want to understand a couple of things. One, so that we can be fair in our assessment. How difficult is it to get materials there? Because I've looked at the bridge without even looking at the other issues of procurement. I've looked at the bridge, and I'm just wondering, how hard is it to get materials there? And also, were those local contractors or were people from outside? Just so that I can be able to put it into perspective.
Chair, you note that, this is a footbridge. No car is allowed to pass. Never. Motorbike, yes. Bicycle, yes. Cows, yes. But this one, and that's why you see, when this thing was prepared, I've deleted that portion because there's no car, even the tiny one cannot pass. So I think the crack came and it has been done. Because of the
Governor, the document you tabled before us
yes.
has that, and I said you should not subject us to theater. This is a footbridge, and you're saying it was damaged by a car. Do you want to expunge that description, or do we go with it?
We remove, Chair. We delete that description. Even me, I deleted it 2 days. When I saw it, there's no car that can squeeze itself in a footbridge.
So you propose that we expunge that particular section. Senator Khaniri.
Mr. Chairman, 2 things here. Number one, I don't know if you've noticed there's a disparity between the figures. The auditor is telling us there was an expenditure of 52 million, whereas the governor says the tender costed the county government 27 million. So it will be very important for us to be clear on the figure. The second issue, the governor has just answered to the first part in terms of was these services properly procured, the tendering, but he has not answered to the part that says, did we get value for money? Because how do you spend, even if it was 27 million, to put up this thing we are seeing in the picture here, honestly? Did we get value for money? You didn't respond to that, Mr. Governor.
First of all, Auditor General and Governor, we need to know what's the right number. Is it 27 or is it 52 million?
Thank you, Chair. According to the report, we are referring to a figure of 52.2 million. That is for 2 bridges. But in the response, they're only referring to 1 bridge at a cost of 27.9 million.
So this thing we are seeing is worth 27 million. Number two, Auditor General, on the second issue raised by Senator Khaniri, you have been given the documents, the procurement and tender documents. Have you looked at them and you can confirm that they are okay?
Yes, Chair, we've been given the tender documents. That is the tender opening minutes, evaluation reports, the signed contracts, and certificates of completion. And even the tender advertisement, that one we've been given and we've confirmed. Thank you.
So, Governor, deal with the last part of Senator Khaniri's query, value for money.
Chair, I can confirm that the bridge is okay now because the contractor was returned. It was still during the liability period, which is 6 months, to redo the work. So since that time, the bridge is working. I have seen it personally.
Governor, I'd ask a very simple question. Were these local contractors or contractors sourced out of, like maybe elsewhere? That's number one. Number two, if you were to build the bridge, would you spend 27 million to put up that structure?
Yeah, let's put our figures correctly. The amount is 27 million for the 2 bridges. So we need to bring evidence, but not 52. It looks like they looked at the one of them, the sum total, and maybe thought it was 1. Otherwise, it's supposed to be, the total amount is 27.
Where is the evidence to rebut? Because I believe the Auditor General picked this from your financial statements.
Let me ask the CEC, who was the CEC then, to tell us. He's here. And before, to tell us.
Okay, thank you very much. I am aware of these 2 footbridges. One was costed at 12.5 million each, 2 of them. So this figure of 52 is not realistic because we've been constructing footbridges.
Order, Governor. I don't want your CC to make a speech. I want him to tender evidence that it is not 52, it is 27 or 12. If you have that, provide it. If not, then we can give you time to do that.
Chair, let's, we request that we submit the document, the actual document for showing the figures for each and the sum total.
I'm still expecting answers, but this thing is getting interesting minute by minute. Because earlier on, Governor, you said that you came in with a completely new stuff. But then you've just pointed out to the CC and said that he was there back then. Under whose watch all these illegalities were happening. So do you have him as a new CC or was he there before? Number two, the construction of that bridge, was it done by local people or was it done by a contractor from outside? And then number three, would you build even that footbridge for 13 million? Assuming that is correct.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, like I said, I have new staff, meaning it's also new. In 2013, 2014, he was the CEC roads. Then he was sacked for being firm, and as you know. So, for that reason, he has been out. That's why I'm saying he's new. But at the time of tendering this project, then he was there. Then they were removed in July 2014. And then, as to whether we can do bridges, West POKOT has very interesting rivers. The span is very interesting, and I would ask that when you visit, you come
Chair,
and see.
the governor is becoming a politician. You're not answering the question. I said, was this built by local contractors, number one? And then if you were to build the same bridge, would you spend that amount of money?
I was still going on to respond. Like I've said, we have rivers. The sizes are not the same. You will know River Ion when you come to see. So when it says 12 million or 13 million, sometimes it can be even more, depend because of the columns you have to put across the river. This one, from the record I have here, is a local contractor. Yes. And you know, all contractors work under the supervision of the engineers of the public works.
Senator Faki.
Chairman, it seems the river, the bridge we are being shown here, it has a width of about 1.5 meters.
Assuming, Governor, can you confirm that what we have here is a correct picture? Because if it's what we are using to make our conclusions, then it is worrying. It reminds me of a bridge in Bomet that was recently featured in the media. Senator Pogisio, you are our eyes and boots on the ground. Are you familiar with this particular bridge? Does it look like it looks on this paper?
Thank you, Chair. Is this thing on? Chair, the picture that you're seeing is not the complete footbridge. I don't think that's again, this is for the people. If you wanted to show the complete footbridge, it's not easy to judge from just one end of the footbridge. But this is one of the works that were poorly done. But and I've been there. I've seen it. The questions that the committee is raising, obviously, should be answered properly. And for the CC who was there, I hope that the beginnings were not the same as the end, because we're asking about the end of that financial. So it may have been, but just to support the government that is there now, is to say, if the span of the rivers and, like you're saying, materials and the rivers, those rivers are fierce. I mean, these are the flows of those rivers during the high seasons, Mr. Chairman, they can run down a bridge. So it's just, but we need evidence. We need evidence that they were built for that account, that amount of money.
Chair, if I may, I have a color photograph one here, which shows, and I'll give you, which shows that what we are seeing as black and white is just one side of the river. Those are the columns on one side of the river. And then you see the river now, you see in the background, the river itself.
Refer members to that. That's appendix what? 7?
Appendix 5. Annex what? Appendix what?
Is that 7?
7.0.
I think that's why a member proposed and we resolved that it would be important also to do a ground visit because, Governor, if that bridge could not survive a motorist, I wonder whether it would survive the raging waters that Senator Pogisio says flow under that bridge. Okay. Was this one of the projects that NCA looked at, or this was outside the scope of NCA's review?
Sorry, NCA didn't look. They looked at bigger projects than this, but the committee that did the evaluation checked also.
We will still make recommendations on a value for money assessment. Number 2, we must clarify the amounts involved, if it was 52 or 27, as indicated by the governor, because that will help us in value for money assessment. And we also undertake to visit this. Members, I want us to just deal with this theme of construction. Let's look at number 8, because it raises some interesting issues beyond West Pokot. Auditor General, quickly.
Chair, 8.0, improvement and maintenance of roads. Included in the acquisition of assets, figure of Kenya shillings 1,695,218,867 is construction of roads, figure of Kenya shillings 273,113,567, which includes an amount of Kenya shillings 37,963,382 incurred on the improvement and maintenance works on the roads. However, the roads that were improved were national and were being maintained by the Kenya Rural Roads Authority, KERA, and Kenya Urban Roads Authority, KURA, in their constituency roads improvement and maintenance programs as listed in the agency's annual public roads program, APRP, for the year ended 30th June 2015. Consequently, the propriety of the expenditure totaling to Kenya shillings 37,963,382 could not be confirmed for the year ended 30th June 2015.
Governor, I don't want you to read the detailed response because we have it. We will consider it as tabled. But I want to ask you a broader question. You have had the benefit of working in government, especially in the works sector. You have counties doing roads, members of National Assembly through their CDF doing roads, KURA, KERA, etc. We also have the roads bill. We also have the dispute on classification. In your view, as a governor with some experience, what is the best way of dealing with this? Obviously, the Auditor General says you're doing a job that is not yours. And yes, legally speaking, they're right. But practically, because you might find yourself caught up in this, waiting for KERA to do a road or KURA to do a road, and you decide to do it yourself. What are your thoughts on this confusion around roads in counties? Yes, as you respond to the specific issues.
Yeah. This is an issue that Senate, National Assembly, and Kenyans need to sit and talk and be candid about it. the roads being done by county governments are done to the best of the ability of the county, and they look good, if I may use West Pokot because I've been there now for a year. But Kera roads, first of all, most of the contractors come from, we don't know, they come from Nairobi, and West Pokot is very far from Nairobi. And they say the money comes in bits and pieces. So, and then they have taken major roads that are supposed to serving volume of people who have their services. It reaches a time now, like now we are doing one in West Pokot because the rains, short rains are about to come and people are harvesting. They can't move because there's mud. You have to go and do the road and put maram. And the people are sleeping. So, and then again, there is a committee which is purported to be working under the national government, members of parliament. An MP brings a friend to become the chairman of the roads in that constituency. And another peculiarity is even in West Pokot, which is a marginalized county, we have some money called equalization fund. Nairobi pretends and purports to be now doing roads for the county constituency. So we suddenly see somebody coming to say, I've been given this road to do. The fellow has not been to the ground and the work is not done, supervision. So in my conclusion, having been there, can we tighten and put this road business fund together in one basket? Even if the MPs want to say they want to look at it, let it be in the county. And then all of us come to agree how the money is spent. And then they come and now check the quality of the road that has been done. There we will avoid all these challenges that we find ourselves in, that counties are raya, they come with leaves singing. Our road is bad, so you must go. Our road is bad, so you must go. They don't understand who is Kera, what is Kura, and so on. Even Kena now, we have an imaginary lake that has just grown next to the highway since December, and the Kera, sorry, Kenya. I know they don't come. Now the road is warping. When we keep writing, they are not coming. And you know, you can only come and remove that because illegally. But people are now saying you have to do it. So they don't know anybody else. The sooner Senate and National Assembly agree, and the National Assembly should forget and die with their CDF. And by the way, the law does not understand CDF anymore. It should be coming to the counties. Why should they now move to roads? What is it for? What is it? That's what it's going to do. If it is national, if it is to do with oversight, fine. They can do the oversight on some of the highways. But to come and bring a friend to become the chairman of this fund, and you don't see how the road is done, and they don't even consult the county government. They don't consult our roads and the county department of roads. So those are the challenges that we have.
Chair. Governor, I have one issue. Under the planning of the county government has a say in all projects that go on in that county. It's not that somebody can come from Nairobi and say we are putting up a road in this county without any specifications being given to the county civil engineering department, without any knowledge of what how the road is going to look like. So I believe your departments in Department of Roads and Building and so on and so forth have a duty to play in the regulation and construction of these projects. Because somebody cannot just come and put up a road without your knowledge. And that road is supposed to serve the people of your county. If that road becomes a disaster, it is the people of your country who are going to suffer. So you cannot say that, oh, because this is being done by the CDF, our hands are tied. And when a disaster occurs, as a result of that road or of that project, your people are going to suffer. So I believe you should be proactive so that whatever projects that are going on in your county, you should have a say in whatever is being done in those projects. Thank you.
Senator Olekina.
Chair, so that we don't run away from this query, and I'll be happy if the governor can respond. There are two things here in the query in terms of the auditor. There's one word which is a little bit interesting in my part, and maybe the auditor can help us here. The part that says, enlisted in the agency annual public roads program for the year ended 30th June 2015. Now, the auditor, the part of the question of the auditor, was it listed as having been done by KERA, or was it listed to be done? That's number one. Number two, Governor, if you can confirm, because you're from that county, even though you were not the governor then, was this road done by the county government? And did we have value for money because of the challenges that you just alluded to?
Yeah, Governor, starting with Senator Faki's comment, and then Senator Olekino.
Chair, the practice is different on the ground. We still have some war between the national agencies and the county agencies, especially in roads. KERA wants to hold on to their roads. And those are some of the roads that they sit down with the members of parliament, and if there is a fund like equalization fund, they say, we take this one and do. They advertise in Nairobi, they don't even consult us. We have become very rough on the ground asking, and then they say the CS and the PS. So what we need to do, maybe Senate needs to come out boldly, either with legislation, anything that is being done in county, either it is water project, it is whatever project, make sure that the relevant department, however small in the county, is involved, so that because we are the final user, after you are done, we use. So those are some of the things that we need to check. It is that tough on the ground, and unless if it is different in your county.
Chair, I want to give you an example. In Mombasa County, there's a Mvita clinic, which at some point the Mvita CDF wanted to upgrade, but they did not have permission from the then Municipal Council of Mombasa. That project stalled up to now. It has not been upgraded because there has been no agreement between the county government and the Mvita CDF on how that project is supposed to be done. I believe under the planning laws and building regulations, you have a say in whatever project that is supposed to be done in your county. And you can use those regulations to stop anybody building a road without your approval. Because you need to give approvals for all these projects which are occurring in your constituency. If I'm to paint my house in Mombasa, I need a permit from the county government. So why is it different from West POKOT?
Yeah, Governor, just put that in context.
Chair, he's right. Develop function, yes, like health. We have no choice. You must pass where we are. It's developed. But some roads, we have this issue of classification, where there's a protracted challenge and war between counties, COG, and national about roads. And we don't care if they can do a good job, but we must know, because if we are finally the users. I have a road that I know, Kanyar, Kwat, Kongelai, Nakwichit, which is being done now through equalization fund. When we ask, they say, you wait, the PS will come from Nairobi so that you can be involved. Personally, that's where I'm saying we need KERA, the KERA in the national arena. Why don't they use the KERA in Kapenguria? And then again, we need to have a synchronized working relation, because it looks like you hear on a Saturday, the member of parliament has come to see you, sit down to look at the committee, meet with the committee and see the roads that they fall under KERA in them. Now you have brought somebody else who's supposed to be doing oversight. He's now sitting as a chairman through his appointee. There now things they become muddy. So that's what I was saying. Senate needs to pronounce itself. And then again, candidly, the National Assembly also needs to see some of these things and to pave way for and leave them.
There were some specific questions raised by Senator Olekina. I think it was around whether the work was actually done.
Chair, like when I came in, these are some of the things you can't certify now because the road is. But the response I got is given in our management response. And then when the county government was inaugurated 2013, most roads across the county were in very poor condition, which is true. In addition, there was no clear separation of responsibility for these roads between the county government and national government agencies and entities. As a matter of necessity, the county government prepared a budget, procurement plans for various roads within the county, without information that KERA and the KURA had their own budgets. However, before implementation, the county government prepared work plans which ensured the scope and section of the roads maintained were not overlapping with those carried out by the other county agencies. It should be noted that these particular roads are long in distance and require much more finances than provided. The table below shows some of the roads that were done by the county government at that time. Chair, these are not tarmac roads, which means the quality you saw last year. You should be able to have assessed. I think the audit must have assessed during that year to see how the money was spent. So this is what I got from the office, that the money was spent like that. And if you go to the ground now, you might not see, because it's a road that you keep doing every year.
Yeah, some of the works were bush clearing. So even if you come to visit next week, maybe the bush would have grown again. But Governor, we appreciate that concern. When we were together in the Senate moved a motion that classes A, B, C would be handled by the national government, and classes D going downwards would be handled by the county governments. The national government went ahead and reclassified the roads and introduced other classes. In the roads bill that is currently before the Senate, there's an attempt to reintroduce KERA, calling it Kenya National Secondary Roads Agency. And the National Assembly is determined to control that. So that interference that we have been seeing from KERA might not end if we pass the bill the way it has come from the National Assembly. But it's an area where we must support counties, because Governor, in as much as we promised us you'll be an A student, I suspect you'll be caught up in this, because people are demonstrating out of your office. We want a road. What do? Do you send them to KURA or KERA? They don't care who those people are. So we could propose, in line with Senator Faki's earlier contribution, that is annual public roads program. The county government must be involved. And Governor, there's a time we did a tour of some of the roads, including some roads in West Pokot, and the KERA officers assured us that they work very closely with county governors. Is that the reality on the ground when they're coming up with their annual plan for the county? Are you involved?
Chair, in our case, we have now, we have summoned the regional fellow, we have sat down, and you did mention, except those ones that are done in Nairobi and suddenly we see somebody has arrived, that's where we have a problem. But for those ones now in the ground, we must see what they are doing. And we must all agree what they are to do and when. And our CEC and our chief officer are very thorough with them, and I have personally visited to see. Their only limitation is the flow of funds to be given money from the agency headquarters in Nairobi. That's the only challenge. Sometimes they're given in April, May, June, which is not good. We need the money earlier. Why do you give us money during rainy season? No road can be done.
And in the constituency roads improvement and maintenance program, to what extent is the county involved? Because those constituency roads exist in the county.
That's why, Chair, I was saying, we need to remove it from the hands of your colleagues, the MPs. Because, how can somebody who doesn't even know to speak Swahili and English in that order find himself as a chairman of those small roads. But because the guy carries a lot of...
Order, Governor. Can you withdraw? Can you withdraw that assertion so that you can proceed in a more cautious manner?
I withdraw, Chair, and proceed to say we need to have people who are competent enough, and we need to have minimum basic education level and standards and honesty and integrity to lead some of these committees in the ground, particularly those on the roads, so that we are not confused.
Senator Pogiso?
Chair, I think that for West POKOT, which is, it's been known that some members of parliament appoint people to chair these meetings, to chair the roads committee, who have no education or little education. That's what I think complicates things. So the issue of saying cannot speak English or Swahili has nothing to do with demeaning them, just saying that we should have a standard. But Chair, one of the questions which is fundamental, which I wanted to ask, now that you are saying there's going to be a query if the county government does a road which is not in their category, what is it that can be done? Because in that county, what do we do so that there's intervention that is quick in terms of being able to pass, to go to certain parts of that county is just impossible. And some of those roads have been claimed under certain class. There's a notorious road which I drive on personally called Kapenguria-Kacheliba Road, which is permanently under the state of disrepair. It is, I think, classified under the national government. I think it's a Kera road, but it's totally, absolutely. So what happens in that case? Because we are the people putting pressure on the county government to do it. Should the county government show evidence and should Kera then pay them back for resources like that have been spent?
Chairman.
Senator Faki, then Senator Lekina.
I think the issue of classification is only for purposes of construction or maintenance of that particular road. That this road is class A, therefore it is maintained by Kenha, and therefore the national government will be maintaining that particular road. But as far as the design and construction is done, the plans have to be submitted to the county government, because the county government is the sole planning authority in that particular area. Whatever plans that the government has on the road, those plans have to be submitted to the county government to approve them so that they are in conformity with their local needs. We cannot have a plan just brought from Nairobi and then you are told this will be implemented by people from Nairobi when they are not taking into consideration the local circumstances. And it is for you also to issue a certificate at the end of the construction. So you cannot run away from that responsibility. Be it a Kura Road, a Kera Road, whatever it is. Even the CDF, before they start the construction, they have to get an approval from your office. If there's no approval, stop the construction. In Mombasa, I'll give you another example. The Kenya Ferry were doing a boundary wall just next to the Likoni Ferry. They had not obtained an approval from the county government. So the governor himself went there and said, I need an approval. If you have no approval, no construction. And the construction was stopped until they got the approvals. So some of these things you have to be proactive. You have to know what is happening in your county. If the MP is doing a road which you are not aware of, send your askaris to stop it. There will be no problem.
You are recommending extra legal measures.
It's not an extra legal measure. You issue a notice that this construction you are doing is illegal. Or show us a building plan or whatever plan you have approved by our authority. If you don't have that plan, then we are charging you in the county court for violating the planning regulations and fining you or sentencing you to prison, if the case may be.
Senator Olekina?
Chair, I think my approach would be a little bit different because these are things which are envisioned by the Constitution. And there's a provision in the Constitution, Article 189, that seeks to find a cooperation between the national government and the county government. And given the information, the background information given by Senator Pogisio, I think it would be necessary that the governor, given that you have an interest of making sure that when the short rains come, your people are able to use the roads. Given that this is a problem, and now the auditors have already raised this query, that you did a road which was supposed to be done by Kera. I think it might be necessary for you to work with, or the Department of Transport in your government, to work with the national government so that they can agree to avoid this conflict. And then, in the event that they don't want to agree, then you can take the measures that Senator Faki is suggesting. But I think the Constitution is very clear, Article 189, cooperation between the two levels of government. Take that route. Because now, from looking at the auditor's query on the construction of those roads, the only thing that we can deduce is that there's a possible loss of money, you know? Because why is it that the county government of West Pokot chose to do that, yet the national government is doing it? And there was no agreement between the two. So you can't run away from that. So I think I would encourage you to really try and pursue that aspect of cooperation between the two levels of government.
Governor?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I appreciate the concerns of committee members. Like what my senator did say, there is a road called Kapenguria-Kacheliba Road, which is very busy and it is national. So occasionally when matatus and vehicles are unable to go, the only place they will go to demonstrate is at the gate of the governor's office. So we have done it now twice since we went in. As we fortunately the national government has decided now to put it on tarmac, but it's going to take 3 or 4 years for it to reach. Now in that scenario, when you engage Kera say we don't have money, we will wait until we are given. Ideally, what the member will say is very ideal. It doesn't work like that on the ground. But how I wish we followed what KRP do. KRP, Kenya Roads Board, they give us funds direct to every county and their different votes. So we do the roads and we report to them what we have done, the quality of the road, and then they come and inspect. And they are very happy, exceedingly happy. I wish Kera divorced their business and gave us the money. Then they now come and do supervisory, because we know where the shoe pinches most. We are the users. I wish Kura does the same. For example, this year Kura, we told them using 55 million every year to do some 6-8 kilometer road and grading. So we stopped it. We just told them, put tarmac road, even if it's 2 kilometers per year. It doesn't matter. And that one is happening now. And so I agree with you. Those are measures that we can put in place, that members of parliament can support senators by also making sure that these small constituency roads, the constituency is a subset of the county. So they should be able to allow us to do, so that when we go around, we don't find somebody in the somebody digging the road and you ask, who is this? I have been given, and we are not aware. And at that time, it brings a lot of conflict. But somehow we can refine our relationship as we move on during this devolution time.
And maybe just to wrap that up, and the legitimate concern raised by Senator Pogisio, so, where do we go from here when it is happening? You have just said you've improved that Kacheliba Road twice. And most likely the Auditor General is going to flag it. Our duty as Senate is to fast track the roads bill. I know it tries to address some of these issues. And also, our duty is to push for more resources to the counties. Because the more roads are handed over to counties, the more resources that will be required to build and to maintain them. KRB sends you money for maintenance. And I believe it is based on the kilometers or existing roads that you have. So as you open more roads and as you take more of the responsibilities in roads, we must push for an additional allocation. And that is why, Governor, many of us sitting here, even though this matter has not come before us formally, the 9 billion shillings that the national government intends to chop from the budget of counties, we do not favor it in principle, because we believe that more functions are now being sent to counties We're informed that libraries have now been handed over to counties, but funds have not followed. Roads, you are opening more roads, so you need more funds to support them. So I think legislatively, make sure the roads bill captures these concerns, and then financially make sure that counties have got money. Governor, I agree with you that having a member of the National Assembly managing roads, constituency roads improvement plans, that is an anomaly. Government is at two levels, national and county. You cannot have another level at the constituency. In fact, now women members of parliament are also building markets and doing things that the governor is supposed to be doing. I think these monies must be consolidated and put in the hands of a governor for an integrated development to happen. It's a conversation will not end, that will not end now, but it is to guide even other counties, Uasin Gishu or any other county that finds itself in this. Now, Governor, I'm looking at the time. We will need to wind up so that we allow the chamber to be prepared for plenary. But I want us to look at, we will maybe look at 2 or 3 issues before we close, and whatever it is that remains, we can undertake to clear them when we do the visit to West Pokot. Let's just finalize on this issue of buildings. And for those who have not been to West Pokot, the impression we get is that it looks like Dubai. Yes. Because of all the buildings that you have put up. You put up an education, Ministry of Education block. Is that Elimu House? Or it's called, or it's Masomo House?
No name yet. It is still being built.
You put up an Ardi house at a cost of 85 million. You put up Kilimo House, agriculture, livestock and fisheries, at a cost of 32 million. Which other ministry headquarters did you build beside, I think the ones that are flagged here are education, lands, and agriculture? Do you have an office block for youth?
First of all, county treasury. There's a big building called county treasury. We also have a headquarters for youth, sports, and culture.
So it means that every ministry has a headquarters, essentially. So you have a treasury, you have lands, you have education, you have. What's the thinking? What's the thinking behind it?
Yeah, I don't think there was any thinking. There was just this was a malpractice. Personally, I would call it like that because a very tiny little county like West Pokot, erupting with buildings for every CEC, a small king and a small queen in a building, far away from one another. And now they saturated the little land that we have for the headquarters. Ideally, when government was, the central government broke into 2 national and county, they came up with a model to consolidate county government into one building, 8-story building. And drawings were even done. I had the privilege, I was the last PS then. Drawings were done. What, 320 million for an 8-story building, 2 basements, so that you have everybody there. Even the senator has an office. All the MPs should have office so that you visit, when you visit your constituency, you pass through that office to check projects in your constituency prior to going to the ground so that you know what you're going to check. Same thing to the senator. Unfortunately, West Pokot, I think somebody went and advised them, go and replicate Nairobi in West Pokot. OP, different. Jogo House, different lands, and even the copy the names, everything. So that's why we have the problem. And shockingly, the way you discovered here, all of them didn't have budget. So you just wake up. I think this man also woke up, brought his drawings. Another one wakes up, drawings, and then they were being approved like that. And that's why we have this challenge that we have. And I was going to make a conclusion, a remark when you give me that time. So this is the problem that we have. All our money went into buildings. Now we put everything to a freeze so that we can serve the people. We can now serve the people, things that touch them with health, food, shelter, and so on, small things, roads we open, however small, so that we can begin and devolve to the ground, come up and complete these buildings later on. It's very expensive to run buildings, very expensive. No water, unfortunately no water. All those beautiful buildings have no water.
Senator Lekina?
From what we've seen here and from your explanation, it would actually lead someone to think that West Pokot wanted to be a country of its own. You know, its own independent country, maybe away from anyone else, you know. But it's a very serious issue, Governor. Now the question is, what next? These buildings have been constructed halfway. They have not been completed. There is no money. You know, you're saying there's Arthi House, there is another house, due Treasury, there is Maji House. What next? You know, are you just going to sink all these resources? And that brings me now to my other biggest concern, you know, and this really falls on you. I would love to see your charts of account. I'd like to see your sources of revenue, you know, currently. What are you able to collect, you know, with all these big buildings? Are there companies that you can lease out these buildings to, and then maybe go to your earlier proposal of having just everything in one building? Because I'm so concerned. And that is why from the onset I said we will adopt the auditor report in its entirety. And I would even suggest, Chair, that even subsequent years that the county has received an adverse opinion, it will not help us in any way. You know, so that now we can start looking at Professor's term to see whether he will move from the D to at least even a B or something like that. Because I'm really, really concerned about this issue, you know.
And Governor, before you respond, is this the year you built an assembly as well?
Yes, Chair. That is the year we built an assembly, a mighty assembly, and it's going to take years to complete it. So, I mean, so we are in that scenario. And the current MCS and the current county government are struggling to fund it. It is already done. So we have to do austerity measures to see, like I've said, most of them we froze so that we can redo them in phases and see what, those ones that are far, we see what we can be able to do with them. Like fortunately now for Agricultural Training College, at least we have a university that has now come. So we wash our hands. We say we donate. The national government, county government now work closely together, and we're working on an agenda where we have given them the 70 acres of land, given them the building, but they also give us in the MOU certain things that they're going to write, and they make it a constituent college. In the years to come, we have Kapenguria University, university. So that is where we are facing slowly and surely as we move towards that. It will be great to have your input when you visit as well, so that you see the predicament we are in, but we are going to make good use of the whatever we have in the down.
The Auditor General's report indicates that 562 million was spent on construction of buildings in that year. Is that a fact?
Yes, Chairman, that is the correct position.
562 million in construction. And one would assume that by the time you go into this, then you have enough hospitals, you have enough ECDs, everyone has water, agriculture is working, and the people of West Pokot are generally happy and prosperous, before you decide to put 562 million in brick and mortar. And your annual share from the national government is how much? How many billions?
Yes, sorry, Chair, it's about 5 billion only.
5 billion.
So this is about 14% of our money is going to buildings.
Going into buildings.
Not projects, but buildings.
Governor, I didn't hear you responding to how much are you collecting currently, you know, and then looking at the previous years, because I'm sure being the governor now, you've had an opportunity to look at the revenues coming in. How much are you collecting now?
Chair, looking at West Pokot, West Pokot has no industries. We have potential for bigger mineral exploration as the years to come. Those we are putting the basis now. So the amount of money, we collect very little as a county from the beginning, between 70 million and 100 million per year. So for us, this year we collect about 84 or 86 thereabout. We are now putting measures to make sure that we open up the businesses that we have, make sure that we collect money from land rates and whatever that were not being collected. So indeed and surely this year, we are going in our year 2, because year 1 was stabilization and taking over and working with the same officers that were in office before, and some sabotage was also plenty because in their hearts they couldn't believe a new leadership has come. So by and by, that's what was happening. So we are going to make it better.
I think a final issue that we cannot avoid considering, Governor, is on pending bills. So you have all these contracts, some which have been paid for, but nothing has been delivered, and therefore you have contractors who are demanding money from you. Now, it was 20-something, pending accounts payable number 20. Without looking at 2014-2015, I want us to revisit the figures you gave us, that your pending bills currently stand at about 500 million. When Baringo appeared before us, Baringo has 24 million in pending bills. So you have 20 times that amount. What is the driver of that 500 million?
Chair, from the audit, you can see that year alone, it was 306. I am giving you the current figures. The current figures cumulatively from 2014-15, 15-16, 16-17, before I came in. The cumulative is 600. I correct my 500, what I mentioned before, 677 million, 19,174. That's a pending bill from the previous government. But ours that is funded is going, because projects that began in March running to end towards the end of this year, 6 months, 5 months. It is 652 million, but it has full funding. 652 million, 960, 188. These are current projects that are ongoing. We have done a lot of projects, 240 finished ECD classrooms as opposed to 58 that were done in 5 years, and they were not completed because they used contractors. For us, we trained committees, POM, and gave them the quality and standards, and they use all the government requirement material from Thika and all those things that you keep saying. So for us, we will attempt, Chair, this year in our supplementary to see how we can work to reduce this 677 million pending bills from the previous 4 years or 5 to something smaller, so that the coming years, by end of 1920, we'll have finished, because it was accumulated.
Senator Lekino.
Chair, I'm worried. I'm a worried man, because from all the audit queries, we've been able to establish that there's a lot of illegalities and possible loss of money. And I'm worried because when I hear the governor saying that with a supplementary budget they will attempt to pay this, it begs the question whether you would be abating that illegality. And in my advice, the first thing you should have done is really to do an audit, because this is a report which is going to go directly to ESCC and DCI for the investigation. So before paying this money, and this brings up a broader discussion. We are currently caught up in this situation where the national government is reducing money which is sending to the county governments. Already West Pokot is only able to generate about, 88 million? That's like a drop in the ocean. And you're getting 5 billion. So you've really got to find a way to balance the two. Because we have so many arguments coming out. And in the Senate, you put us in such a precarious position because we are fighting to defend devolution. But when some of them are arguing and saying maybe it's a high time we collapse some county governments, I would hate to see if that ever, that discussion ever comes in place, if the issue of on-source revenue is what will be determined. So I think, Governor, before you even attempt to make payments, I think you should do a complete audit. Other county governments have done. If you go to Kiraito Murungi's county, he got a huge pending bill. He was able to reduce it to 200 million, I think from 2 billion. So I would dare say that a lot of these pending bills, that money, if you follow clearly, it's all abating corruption.
Yeah, and that captures the thinking. We have seen that in other counties. That figure you inherited, obviously, you cannot pay it as it is because there are issues that are subject of investigation. So that's more of an emphasis. Now, because of time, I want to defer whatever issue that we have not dealt with today to the site verification, but generally, we shall adopt the report of the Auditor General and also consider the written response of the Governor that has been tabled before us. I'd like us to do just some quick closing remarks, and then the Governor will do his closing remarks, and then we shall adjourn. I'll start with the Senator for West Pokot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to make sure also editorials on your documents, including the names, are properly captured. I saw at one time you're talking about the bridge at Lyon, and that's supposed to be Eon with I, so that you can correct them and capture it properly. But Mr. Chairman, I came in as senator after Professor Lonyangapuo became a governor. And one of the things about West Pokot which must be used to help other counties is that a county can go to the dogs as we watch, as everybody watches. Because the questions which have been asked was, where was NEMA? For example, where were all these other agencies that are supposed to look at, including the control of budget and so on? And year after year, there is a report saying something is going wrong. And so instead of waiting for post-mortem, I think your committee should be looking at being proactive together with the agencies of government so that we don't have a situation getting to this stage, Mr. Chairman. Otherwise, I'd like to observe that the challenges can be surmounted only if we keep to the law and continue to keep an eye. The work of oversight by Senate is so crucial that the attempt to try and limit senators by not providing a fund to do oversight also lends itself to this kind of result that you see, where the Senate or the senator is unable to identify a move in the county to bring out some of these issues. And so I'm also looking forward to a situation where Kenyans who now see the work of the Senate can easily and all in one voice say we need to see more oversight on the programs that are there. Otherwise, Mr. Chairman, as a friend, I want to thank you for the good job that you have done.
Thank you, Chair. I think I will be very brief because I think I had made most of my comments then. But Chair, I believe it is important that we say it loudly and clearly. And hopefully that we'll be seeing now a new engagement with county governments. And especially, Chair, as I said earlier, with now governors who have more information, more exposure, and a better vision, hopefully. And I believe the governor for West Pokot is one of them. Such that, the drama that we saw at the inauguration and inaugural term of governors can now cease, and we can have now more cooperation that will see counties moving forward. And I want to laud the governor for West Pokot, one, for having shown up here, for having been very patient to engage this committee. But let that cooperation, let that spirit then continue indeed, Governor, such that we make it real, we make it actual. When you have issues that you want to consult over as we grow on, don't find there's no reason why you would not consult or contact Senate, people who are your friends, your former colleagues, and we can be able to work together. Lastly, Chair, is on, as I left, I had made a proposal, are we able to adapt that we visit the county of West Pokot to have a look at really on ground what is happening. Two things I will just say very quickly. One, if you gauge the spirit of the people of Uasin Gishu, when the Senate came here now, and now people can see devolution is real, that we are willing to come down to where the people are and resolve their issues right at the grassroots. So that visit to West Pokot will not only serve as an opportunity for us to do the evaluation, but also to say to the people of West Pokot, yes, that could have been happening, but there are people who care. I mean, that we take responsibility. And I believe that opportunity, Governor, should be availed to us. Chair, as we adapt, as you have said, the report of the Auditor General, let us not close it fully, because the evaluation, the results that will come out after our visit will go a long way, Chair, in probably adding to whatever recommendations we may be having. The other things we may not have seen or were not reflected on paper, but that we might be able to see. So, Governor, thank you for coming. As you go back to West Pokot, say hello to the people of West Pokot. When we were there last, we saw that you had a good program where you are giving goats and cows to your people to enhance their productivity of livestock. And as the Senator for Kiambu, we consume a lot of your meat, and we have also started our program of also growing our own livestock department. So you may be facing a lean market in the very near future. So innovate. Anyway, thank you very much, Chair.
Well said, Senator Matangi. I noted that the governor has started donating cows to neighboring counties. Tutakutana hapa. Senator Faki, anything in closing? Senator Olekina?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just briefly, I want to thank the governor for being very, very honest and saying as it is. I want to encourage you to really try and build the capacity of your staff, because that is key. If you now spend some time and ensure that your CC in charge of finance, your CEO, they're all conversant with the PFM Act, they are also conversant with the Constitution in terms of financial management, and the procurement sector also is really, because what we are seeing here, where there is no procurement plan, is something which is an illegality. The other issue, which is very, very important, is that I think now, given that we have not looked at the audit report for 2015-2016, it is your time now to look at the management response. If it was done by the previous government, you should look at it now, so that when we are meeting again, I would actually propose to the chair that when we meet, we try and see whether we can consolidate all those reports and look, compare the reports so that we can finish, so that we can start looking at where you are. I'm also highly concerned about the issue of on-source revenue. I think you may need to come up with certain ideas to be able to increase the local revenue. And then realign your existing resources. I'm sure as a professor and a former PS, I think you're in the Ministry of Planning, if I'm not wrong, or maybe Works.
Industry and Public Works.
Industry and Public Works. You still have a lot of networks that you can be able to put in place to improve the standard of living of the people of West Pokot. And finally, just on a lighter note, don't worry about what my good friend Senator Matangi said. Your meat is, the cows and goats that you have there really, really good. I can say that as a Maasai. And Kiambu will never have enough land to, to defeat you. Thank you.
I'm glad you qualified on a light touch, otherwise I would have ruled you out of order. Governor, any comments in closing? Even though before Governor closes, maybe Office of the Auditor General, is there anything you want to raise in closing?
Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity. We'd just like to congratulate the governor on the efforts that he has made. He has established a very good relationship with the audit office. And maybe what he should go further to do is to strengthen the internal audit, because we want to see an audit committee that is independent and a very strong internal audit, which will help enhance the work of the county. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Auditor General. Governor, in closing.
Chair, I want on my own behalf and the behalf of my county and the entire people of West Pokot to thank Senate, especially this committee, for looking and working together with us to put things in order in our county. And to mention to you, Chair, that we now have an audit committee, 3 weeks old, which is independent from people outside. And also to say that this, we are not going to pay that pending bill, as it were. We will go with the recommendations. There are few projects that have been given a clean bill of lading, which should be paid, very few. So those are the ones that we are going to check, and the two committees that gave us checked and find that those ones that we don't want to hold and the project is finished. But the major ones that have been cited there, we can assure Senate that together we can move ahead to see how people who are responsible should take responsibility and pay for their own actions. This one, in West Pokot, Chair, as I conclude, you will note that we are dealing with things that should have been arrested and rectified at the beginning. As the inaugural senator, I tried my best, but there was a problem. There's some governors that time, I don't know how many there were in Kenya, did not want Senate. So they fought everybody. They locked the Senate out. Fortunately, I have not locked my senator out. He can walk in any time and check whatever projects he wants. There, when you lock people out, it means you want to do things that are strange. Now we have seen. So, and where was EACC that time? Where was NEMA that time? Where was NCA that is willingly came quickly and assisted me to do this project when I read a letter and they came and they were pointing to all their errors? Where were they? Where was DPP? Where was everybody that mattered? Where was Auditor General was present? Where is the control of budget? Everybody. So it begs a point. I think we need to work. Really, officers need to guide. You don't wait to come and bring problems at the last minute when every mess has been created. So personally, this is my observation, that Kenyans need to be very clear and candid when you are electing people to some specific positions. You should have been seasoned everywhere, otherwise things will go haywire. And you can be made some small little idol god or some king and forget what is supposed to be happening, the way we discovered in West Pokot. This is my conclusion. And senators, Kaniri was supposed to have gone. We agreed that he goes. I didn't see him going to the ballot box. We need people who have been in parliament to go out and also work in counties. Yes, so I expect a number of you to join me in 2022. Thank you.
Governor, thank you. That last call, if Senator Pogisio decides to respond, we are going to have a problem in West Pokot.
Friendly problem.
Friendly fire. I would like to close, and we, as a committee and personally as a chair, I feel West Pokot now has the right software to move it forward. The spirit of cooperation between the county government and the office of the senator is the right way to carry out some of these functions, and it is something that needs to be replicated across the counties. Governor, as you're asking where was so-and-so, I also wondered where was the county assembly when all these things were happening? And where was the control of budget and other people? Our commitment as Senate is to continue supporting you, to defend your right to a share of the national revenues, including the 9 billion that they want to chop from your budget, but also to fast-track the legislation, various relevant legislation, like the roads bill. We must also finalize our thoughts on equalization fund. It keeps changing every other day. Senator Matangi was arguing that even Kiambu needs to be a beneficiary of the equalization fund. So we must close that debate. We must look at some of these arrangements between national and county governments, the Intergovernmental Relations Act, to ensure that governors are able to do things that are directly relevant to the lives of their people. And so now that you've tabled your feedback, including the NCA reports, we'll be making recommendations. I think we need to make some preliminary recommendations even before this report is adopted in the House. As a committee, we can direct the EACC or request DCI or other bodies to commence investigations even before adoption of the report in the House. I know they are already seized of the matter, but the more we put pressure, if we put political pressure, then I believe that things can move a little bit faster. We appreciate your presence and your team, which we have noted is too masculine, and we have agreed that next time you come here without a female member of your delegation, we shall not afford you any hearing, because we want the women of West Pokot to be involved in deliberations on matters affecting that county. Because of time, I'm not going to say much more than that. Governor, please join us for lunch and your team before you depart to West Pokot. And on the visit to West Pokot, we'll organize it so that it's a regional visit. We can do a day or two in West Pokot. We can come back to Uasin Gishu and maybe Elgeyo Marakwet, and maybe have a look at this Kip Kabus water project. We can also go to Nandi and Trans Nzoia and look at something. So we'll shape a program that runs for a week that will be regional for Uasin Gishu, Pokot, Baringo, Nandi, Elgeyo Marakwet, and Trans Nzoia. There being no other business, the meeting is adjourned. Members of the committee, the date of the next meeting shall be communicated by the clerks. Fellowship continues. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you very much. We came with
Jacob.